Okay. Welcome all the delegates, panelists, parents, speakers, and we have big stalwarts with us in the field of residential setups. And we are moving ahead with our next section for Parent Summit 2021. That is knowing more about the residential setups and assisted living setups, how these setups went on from challenges to opportunities. We have 7 speakers for the day today, and each speaker is going to be allotted 20 minutes for the talk, for their presentation. And at the end, as and when the time permits, we are going to take few questions from parents as well. All the speakers are ready. Are we good to go? Shall we begin? Yes. Yes. Welcome to all of you. I would initially like to introduce in very brief Nina ma'am, who is going to start off. Miss Nina Wag is a translator, writer, playwright, poet, filmmaker. She is also the founder trustee of Alap. Nina ma'am, over to you. You may begin with your presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Somilasher. Thank you, Harshali and Snick, for putting us all together. Since we have a lot of speakers and limited time, so I'll make an economic use of that. Let me start with sharing the screen. Yeah, everybody can see now.
Yeah, yes, but make it a full screen, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm best friend. Okay. So, for those of you who have logged in and don't know me, I'm also a parent, like many of the panelists here. I have a 21-year-old son, Amog, on the spectrum, and I have been involved with autism advocacy ever since I came to know about this world. And the world changed for me and my family. And after he stepped into adolescence, I started worrying about what will happen to him when we are not there, and that triggered off this what after us journey, and one thing led to another, and I realized over the time that there wasn't much or many options at that time. This I'm talking about like 7-8 years back. You know, for parents coming from different walks of life and different expectations in terms of living standards and opportunities per se. So after many hitches and learnings, I landed up with a good team, and this Alap was formed some 3 years back. We are in our 3rd year, and simple, if I have to sum up, Alap is like a slice of life, or simply put it, it is an extension of how you and I would like to live. So that is the bottom line. That is the parameter on which we keep going back whenever we feel we are lost. So let me share a small video of what we are. we have our four-pronged approach. When I started looking around, what my expectation was that just like you and me, we want an overall growth, whether it's a physical growth, physical well-being, emotional growth, emotional well-being, intellectual growth, opportunity to educate yourselves, skilling, and constant upgradation, constantly trying to prepare ourselves in terms of vocation and capacity building, and spiritual growth. When I say spiritual growth, it doesn't mean that in that typical literal sense, but why not? But when I say spiritual growth, means the self-awareness, the self-worth, the demand and expectations, and becoming aware of your own self-worth, which is normally this aspect is very much left behind because we are stuck in the first two categories and then struggling very much with the third one. So this is our four-pronged approach. We do various activities with them. The idea of keeping Alap small was that we always feel that, if there are too many numbers, they tend to get lost. The individuality gets somehow compromised. At least that is what I think. And till the time we are not, till the time we are building up our capacity, it is good to keep the numbers small so that you can do justice to 4 people. If you have done a good job with 4 people, then it doesn't matter whether you have been able to cater to 40 people and doing an average job. That is what Alap is all about. Our services are 24/7 living program, short-term respite program. There are many parents who want to go out, never been to a marriage or never been abroad. If they want to send their children, or there's some mother, they've come for training programs, but they don't have any place to keep their children. We provide services to them. They are day callers. During the last pandemic, a lot of schools stopped. Normally, we are not in favor of taking kids below 18 or below at least 16. But at that time, some mothers were really, really getting hassled and they had nowhere to go. So we started the day callers program as well. We already have a weekend plan right from the beginning, where the minute the child turns 13, 14 or 15, I think they need to step out of the shadow or the umbrella of the mothers. And even the mothers need respite. So, and that is a first step towards actually training for independent living. So this program helps both the parties, parents as well as the child, as well as the service providers. Because many times what happens is the parents want to send their child only when the children is in 40 or 50s. That time it's already, the set patterns have been formed. It is very difficult to crack in that habit. And we have also providing caregiver training, because it so happened that if parents do not want to send their child, but they want trained caregivers, then we can provide training to them. There are certain assisted living services which are just beginning. So, they can use our early startup kind of an experience, whatever we have shared so far. And we can train their staff, and we have done that. And we offer that caregiver training, whether it's for new startups or for the parents living in smaller places who do not have any such access to. So we're going to be completing 3 years, and we're just about getting our bearings, and we are consolidating our systems, whatever we have learned, whether it's any kind of system, whether it's menu, food, staff training, whether it's job training, whether it's maintaining the systems, accounts, everything has been written down, jogged down, because seldom what happens is that we Indian, we have this history of passing on the knowledge orally, but I think we need to stop that and write down everything, whatever the learnings, so that nobody has to reinvent the wheel each time. So we are learning, a lot of people who are already way ahead than us, we have taken in notes from them. We have added our own experiences, so that whenever somebody else needs them, then we have something to share with. So today's topic is, prototype of assisted living. and how residential setup have evolved through challenges and opportunity. It's very interesting because all the parents whose kids have now come are around 20 years, in their 20s or their adulthood, we have all been thinking, we have all had similar concerns, whether we were in Chennai, Bangalore, Delhi, whichever part of the country. So, so everybody has been thinking collectively, but yet not thinking collectively. They have been, they were thinking in isolation, or they thought that they were in isolation. With that thought, I thought, why don't I start a forum on Facebook? So those of you who have not joined or were seeing this presentation for the first time, I would urge them to join this forum on Facebook. It's a social media platform where I have been collating information on the existing as well as the upcoming residential models, because this is going to be a huge thing. We are not yet a sector, but very soon we will become a sector, because in the next coming 5 years or 10 years, we are all of us going to multiply many-fold, because that is the need of the hour. So in one glance, all the panelists that you can see here and more, you will be able to find their models, their information, the sharing of the knowledge on this forum. So, their own journeys as to what has been their learnings. You can all, this forum tries to address them, and it's a work in progress. So, based on what I have observed and seen, we're talking about prototypes. They cannot be one size fit all. So I have tried to sum up according to my understanding of what all kind of prototypes which are running right now or which have been running, and from where they started. If we say the example of America, I came across one institution which housed around 400 residents, or I think they were called inmates, for God's sake, for the want of a better word. So even now, all of us, because of the UNCRPD and because of the better life standards across the world, we are talking about human rights for everybody. We're talking about better living standards for everybody. So the institutionalized kind of a setup is going to be an obsolete idea. Having said that, there's going to be, and there are big setups which say maximum 50 to 80 onwards residents. So what would be the pros and cons? The fear of a person losing his identity and not getting the individual attention as required, or fear of getting institutionalized. So that is the flip side of it. However, if the setup maintains the correct ratio between the resident and the caregiver, and provides and is very conscious about the living standards, about inclusion, and not getting isolated in a small island, then this will work. But then again, I said that sometimes most of the people feel safety in numbers, and these kind of setups may attract funds more easily than a smaller setup. So there will be many takers for these kind of setups, like single parents, outstation, overseas parents, or parents, with no facilities in their reach. Second will be smaller setups, more like a commune between, say, I've written 10, but I think I'm from 20 to 25. So again, the pros and cons will be that the burden may be put on the parents alone, may not work out to be cost effective. However, with cohesive effort, it can be made doable. But then, you'll have to find that common factor. It will take, a lot of time probably, because we are living in a time where everybody wants the other to see their point of view and endorse their idea of what is the right and wrong. And many of the organizations have been suffering or facing more challenges to, bring all the people together on board. So this can work if somebody already has a land and can start it immediately, have an, can command some kind of a order. This will work. The best way would be to have a mixed model where it's partly funded and partly, just working as a big joint family where everybody is willing and happy to share resources without worrying कि मैंने ज़्यादा दिया तो मेरे बच्चे के लिए ज़्यादा होना चाहिए, because that is one biggest challenge in this kind of a setup which I've seen. Family unit is something which if any of you listening and thinking where to start with, I have always recommended, because this is something which really builds up your confidence. But just start small. I mean, rather than just sitting and thinking from the past 10 years, 5 years, oh, what should be done, kya karenge, and over idealizing and over, trying to put everything on paper in a perfect manner. Here's the news. There is nothing like that. Even the best of the world conglomerates, they started with an seed, with an outrageous idea, sitting in their garages or sitting with their friends. So nobody should fear about being ridiculed or anything. Just start small. Take a hire flat. Get four parents and just start it. Just run whatever the cost comes, divided in the all participating parents. Your learnings will be your the next step, propelling you to go to the next level. Your failures will, there is no such thing as failures. Your failures will just propel you to understand and eliminate what is not required. So you will be, this is a process of sifting through the debris and getting exactly what you want. So, so this is something which I went through and I had my learnings. And there are many parents who are well off and they think that we have 2 or 3 caregivers. We don't want to go anywhere. We will provide the required care required for my child at home. Fine, that is also fine. But the flip side is that what would happen for if you're not there and you don't have any other child to look after your property and personal assets. And we have all, I think, come across such cases where the caregivers had run away with the property and left the child or the person to be taken care into lurch. So address that if you want to do that. Either you form a trust or outsource an outer agency to be there, or like if somebody is offering a caregiver training program, sensitization program, somebody for coming and doing periodical inspections, so do that, address that. That can also work out. And there are many kids who are very high functioning who don't want to be labeled. So those parents have double jeopardy, because they are neither here nor there. But one thing they can do, even if they're working, the sense of money and the interpersonal relationship is something where they need that extra help from somebody. So create a circle of friends. It can be people from different walks of life. So even this can work, but then you have to think about the system within that system. Even if it doesn't appear like a system, it will have to be a system. Then cluster home, again, if I go back to that 4 or 5 small number kind of a thing, that has the potential of multiplying into cluster homes. So the people who always have that saying that supposing one person is running, what will happen, ma'am, and you are not there, who's going to take care? Create those succession plans. If the same model can be replicated in 10 different areas, you have an organization. You have like a octopus kind of an organization, for want of better thing. So cluster home is going to be the future of the thing, because it starts easily. Let me tell you, in this country, with the OPO population, that the kind of thing which is unfolding in front of us, that we have more people, less resources. Land is a fixed asset. You mark my words, in 10 or 15 years, the kind of lands which generously has been doled out by the governments will not be done so. We'll have to economize the use of resources. We'll have to be very conscious. So use only that much which can be handled. Because we are into the assisted living, we cannot be thinking about just 5 years or 10 years, because we all have to plan for 50 years minimum. So imagine in 50 years, going by today's trend, everything will be, people will be, everything will be scarce, whether it's water, whether it's resources. Look at how much of the agricultural land has been taken over by the construction boom. But every boom goes bust after a point. So we need to take that into mind, we have to tap into the existing resources, existing infrastructures, and tap them and minimize the financial inputs and maximize and optimize whatever resources we have. That is what we will have to do. This is what the PPT is all about. But over and above this, how much time I have? Okay. Over and above this, what I would like to say, if you look around today, we have started in our own circle getting harrowing news about parents leaving their kids unplanned. Nobody knows where they are going. I have been from the past 10 years been talking about planning like yesterday. You have to plan like yesterday and think about, we cannot have our heads into the sand thinking that something will happen somewhere. It's not going to happen. We have to take our own and our kids' destiny in our hands. We have to plan right now, whether it's writing down everything, right, to what your son's likes and dislikes are. Those are the basic prerequisites towards building a life scenario of, what after us. Not only think me, but think about what is the next fellow parent, what is he going through? Can you share resources? Can you share each other? Can you share and help each other? Start from 1 से 1, 1 से 2, 2 से 3. Start building communities before getting into the nitty-gritty of trust kya hoga, what will be the infrastructure. Those are the things which will come later. First of all, in principle, you have to imbibe and get this thing together, that what is it that we want for our children. As it is, all the people talking about global warming and everything, at least those people are able to advocate their concerns. We represent the population who cannot even speak for themselves, who cannot even carry on one day without ourselves. So look at the amount of work which is required, the amount of planning which is required. So not only have to start thinking about that, but also look around the people, the parents who are already taken that step to go and reach out to them and ask them as to what more can we do to further this program. How can we also help? I think with this I will sum it up. I hope I am well within the time frame that I was allotted.
Absolutely, ma'am. You were well within your time frame as well, and you gave a wonderful guideline about your services at Alar. We also got to know that starting from a family unit is important, then going on to the smaller units and then the bigger setups. So that was a very nice guideline you shared with us. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Now I would like to go to the next speaker. We have Aparna Das ma'am with us. Aparna Das madam is the founder director at Arunima. It is a project for persons with autism. Aparna ma'am, over to you.
Thank you so much. And first of all, very quickly, thank you very, very much for inviting me to be part of this talk. Like I was just mentioning before, the whole talk started, I've been able to attend just a few sessions and everything has looked really amazing. And it's so exciting to see that this kind of work and this kind of discussion is now finally happening. I'm going to just open my PowerPoint. So, yeah, so as Dr. Somil mentioned, I'm the director of Arunima, which is a project for persons with autism. It started as a project for persons with autism, and we still have mostly people with autism at Arunima, but we also have people with other developmental disabilities. And this was an interesting topic, from challenges to opportunities, because really when you come across challenges and you decide you're not going to give up, or you don't have the choice of giving up, that is when you start looking for opportunities or turning your challenges into opportunities. And I think I'm grateful for each of the challenges that has come along, because that has forced us to think of how we can create opportunities. Now, every journey has a beginning, and I know that a lot of people already know this. Our journey in this field began with the diagnosis of my sister, whose name is Arunima, Runi for short. And Runi was diagnosed with autism when she was 6 years old. And it threw us into a new world. But, she was the youngest of 4 siblings, all of us. So she was the youngest of siblings who were 7, 8, and 9 years older than her. Apart from the diagnosis of autism, we had another challenge in the sense that we lost our mother when Rooney was 2 years old. So of course, we had a completely different kind of scenario at home. But the good thing was that we had a supportive family and everyone was completely devoted to Rooney, and everyone, she learned a lot from each one of us, I know. And she also was actually one of the first students at Action for Autism. Mary's son, Neeraj, and Rooney were the first 2 students. And so she had the opportunity of working with Mary right at the beginning. And she's been part of other special schools that were up and coming at that time, because remember, this was in the 1980s when she was diagnosed. She also had individual special educators that she was working with. And the family continued to be very supportive. Over the years, as she grew up, we all were there for her, with her, not thinking at that point of time that this little unit was not going to last forever. And then skipping to a few years ahead, all of us got married. And she mostly started staying with me. And here you see a picture of her with my children when they were very young. Now my kids are 23 and 25 years old. But at that point of time, so she was this lovely Masi. But as the children started growing older, here she is with their friends. And this is when, a bit late in the day, but when this realization started dawning that she is constantly fitting into our life. Where is her life? The life that she has a right to. And also the dreaded question of, what if something were to happen to me? My father's growing older. What if something were to happen to me? What is going to happen to her then? So we started thinking about what we could look for Rooney, and started searching for places that she could go to. But these searches were really, in a sense, futile and depressing, because we could not imagine sending her to any of these places that we had seen. And so then at that point of time, we realized that, look, we have a certain dream in mind. We want to be able to create the kind of life for her and for others, the kind of life that she has lived so far. And since I had, at that point of time, about 2 decades of experience as a special educator, we decided to start our own assisted living center. So our first challenge, if I may call it that, was really even visualizing the dream. And why did we have to visualize the dream? Because whatever models were available were not satisfactory to us. This was not something that we wanted to. The big thing that stood out very starkly was the lack of individuality and the lack of dignity for the residents who were staying in these homes. And so these were not models that we wanted to follow. It also seemed like India was not really ready for the idea of a different kind of assisted living setup, which was not like a typical institution. So the next choice we had was extensive Googling, talking to people who had been part of such setups in different countries. I had the wonderful opportunity of being able to visit an assisted living center abroad. Took a whole year off from my job. I actually left my job, took a whole year off to start thinking and putting these ideas together, and then decided to take the plunge. Now, I want to just say something a little different. We didn't spend, this was basically the journey of a year, this whole visualizing the dream and then moving into action. We did not spend too much time then on paperwork beyond what was absolutely necessary. We had to register ourselves. We had to look at what resources we had available. We had to look at what the immediate need was. And then we decided to just get started with the program rather than waiting for years and years till everything seemed to be perfect and in place, because that was not going to happen. So then the next challenge was beginning the assisted living center. And so this was 10 years ago. We're 10 years old now. And 10 years ago, we inaugurated on World Autism Awareness Day, Arunima, and started our assisted living center with a grand total of two residents, of whom Rooney was one. And the big challenge now was, so this was the first building that we went to. It was a lovely little building in Mussoorie, and we had 6 rooms over there. And the challenge now was turning this building into a home where people could live with dignity. This is another view of the home and our little living room. Now, of course, so it was Rooney and another girl, and it was myself and another staff member. And we had to give everything to this center to make sure that Rooney and this other girl were living the kind of life that we had visualized for them. Financial constraints were huge. I've said this so many times that now I know it by heart, that we had an income of 23,000 rupees and just our rent was 36,000 rupees per month. Plus we had salaries to pay, for the other lady who was working. I did not take a salary in the beginning. We had kitchen staff, we had a guard. How we managed is very difficult to answer, but we managed, a check here, a donation there, and somehow or the other we went from month to month. Then as people started hearing a little bit about Arunima, they started showing interest, and more residents started coming into Arunima, and we needed more staff because now we were completely stretched beyond our capacity. But when we advertised for staff, we started getting applicants from people whose expectations of salary were like, what they would get in a well-established mainstream or special school in Dehradun or even Delhi. And their expectations of the kind of work that they were going to do was very different from what they really had to do. So we really struggled with that. So then in desperation and just from people's ideas, we put out this call for volunteers, and we got an amazing response. It was almost as if people in the community that our setup was in, they were waiting to see, when will Arunima invite us to come and be part of it. And the people, I'm so happy to say that the young ladies who joined us at that point of time are still with us. And that just goes to show the amount of dedication that they had and how they've stuck with us through thick and thin. And so many attempts, for, people wanting to take them into their own organizations, but they have stuck with us through thick and thin. And we are so, so blessed to have these people. And of course, the number of staff has grown ever since then. So after this, we decided, okay, after we started growing and 3 years down the line, we decided to move to Dehradun, which was a better connected city as well. And we had boys and girls at our center, and the center grew. And I've chosen this picture because our next big challenge was, we thought that we were moving from a small town in a hill town in Mussoorie to a bigger place like Dehradun. And we thought, people were going to be much more aware, but we were pretty shocked to see the lack of acceptance and the lack of awareness over there. And initially in the first few years, we just had to fight for everything, from even offloading our furniture in one of the accommodations that we had taken up to being able to go for walks in the community. People resisted, people gave us a hard time, people threatened us. In one case, we were even moved out of a building after 3 months of being there. And that was a huge challenge for us. But we stuck to it. Every day would be challenging and depressing, but we'd wake up the next morning with a new resolve and we'd say, no, we're just going to stick around. We're going to stick around. We're not going to let them boot us out of here. And I found a saying at that point of time, which said, they tried to bury us, but they did not know that we were seeds. And that held really true for us, because then, we grew and we blossomed. And the same people who were not willing to accept us initially actually started accepting us better. And we also came to this realization that whenever you start something new, there is going to be resistance and it is going to be difficult, especially because people don't know what they're up against in a sense, but then they're also watching us. We are their role models. They look at how we interact with people who are differently abled. They look at what our comfort level is. They look at, what our respect for them is. And then they slowly start taking their cues from us. And they are emboldened then to take a step into our world. And that is what happened. And I'm very proud to say, this is something to be proud of. And I certainly don't take sole credit for this. This is the whole community, that I think Dehradun is a much more aware place today because of Arunima. It's a smarter city because of Arunima. So let me tell you a little bit about what our model is like. We currently have a home, and then we have a workplace. So the residential building and the training center. If you look at the residential building, this is a building with 6 apartments in it. And each apartment houses a family of 4 people, 3 to 4 people who live with their staff buddies. The apartments are also set up to provide services to people who have higher support needs and people who are more independent. Then we have this training center or the office that everyone goes to every day. a little bit of a look inside. This is what the houses look like. So you have your living room, you have your bedroom, people manage their homes, there's cooking, there's just regular everyday stuff that happens in the house. This is at the training center. Now at the training center, the program that is provided is very, very varied. And in a sense, it's evolved with the people who have come into Arunima. So each person has come in with their own interests, with their own needs. And we've made that part of the program at Arunima. And so, you know, some of the things that you can see over here, people are doing some vocational work. We have a training kitchen. We have a poly house where people do vegetable farming. We've just opened a cafe. We have a shop. Yeah, so we have a variety of things that we do. And the reason we have a variety of things is because we want people to be able to choose what they enjoy doing and what they can become very good at. So in a sense, Arunima is all about home and work now. Life skills are the most important. They're learning life skills both at home and at work. Recreation, leisure, ADL training, occupational therapy, everything is part of the routine. People learn how to look after themselves, because looking after yourself is the most important thing. And then next, looking after their personal space, which is their bedroom, then looking after the wider space, which is, you know, their living room and the rest of their apartment, going to work, staying in a routine, following a routine, earning money, learning how to budget. We have two people who now work with a corporate as well. And at this point of time, they're working from home, but now they're, you know, mainstreamed in terms of their job as well. And this is all part of a process. There are some people who enjoy being part of a sheltered workshop. There are some people who want to be able to go out and work. And so those options are available to them as well. Now, so these are, as you can see, different kinds of challenges have taught us many, many different things. But of course, then there was this big challenge that hit the whole world, and that was COVID, right? And you can imagine that in a residential setup, it's very, very difficult to maintain social distancing, especially amongst the staff and the residents. You know, you can teach masking, you can teach sanitization and things like that, but social distancing was very, very difficult. So the first time, I mean, like the rest of the world, we were very, very scared of COVID coming into our setup and of basically what COVID was doing to the world. And so at that time we had the option, and most of our residents went home. And that also was a learning experience for us, because some of our residents were not able to go home. 7 of them stayed back at Arunima because their homes were too far away to just drive back to. And so 7 of us staff, we stayed back with them as well. The parents were super supportive. The parents of these people who were with us, they were super supportive. And so I'd say that basically these 7 superstars and us, we had a 3-month adventure in lockdown, and we learned many, many things through this adventure. We felt very proud at that point of time that nobody, not a single staff nor a single resident, was affected by COVID. And so we felt like we had really come through victorious, and we celebrated that. And then all of our friends, we don't call them inmates or residents really, we call them friends. So all of our friends came back, and life seemed to be coming back to normal. And we said, okay, new challenge, we've overcome this challenge as well. But then the second wave came, and this was a bigger challenge. Now, I'd say that this time, definitely because of the last experience that we had been through, we had established a whole lot of standard operating procedures. And so we felt like we were better equipped. And a good thing that we were better equipped, because this time COVID came into Arunima. And so we have 2 residents, 2 staff, 2 teaching staff, and 2 kitchen staff who actually got COVID. And I've just come back after 18 days of being isolated with 2 of the residents who got COVID. And we've come through that. They are healthy. I never got COVID. We managed to get vaccinations within Arunima for everybody except for the people who tested positive. And so, I mean, I'd say this is another challenge that turned into an opportunity for learning. Here are the 2 brave young men who got COVID, and we say cheers to their spirit. They also have some advice for us where they said, take medicine, go to the doctor, check your fever, and drink lots of fruity. So that was the advice that was given to us by them. Would we forego the challenges that we have been through? No, not a single one of them. Because had we not had these challenges, we would not have had the kind of learning that we have had over the years. And we also now, it's not as if everything is just going to fall into place automatically. we have to keep thinking about upcoming challenges. So there has to be sustainability beyond us. This is the team. This is the original team of Arunima, the parents and the staff and the residents that we have. But we have to continue, we have to keep planning for the future. So that is underway. We also realize that as people age, the services are going to have to change as well. We cannot continue to do exactly the same thing forever. So, and we already, for example, my sister is 40 and her needs and her interests are completely different from the other 20, 25, 30-year-olds, you know, and her medical needs have also changed over time. And so in a sense, she's preparing us for the rest of them. We continue to look out for employment opportunities in this strange day and age, but we will continue to keep looking out for that. But we look back at the obstacles that we have crossed. And, you know, when I think about 10 years ago, I remember being there 24/7, not willing myself to stay well all the time because I could not afford to be absent from that place. I was the cook sometimes, I was the accountant, I was the teacher, I was the sweeper, I was everything. I was not the driver because I didn't know how to drive. But apart from that, I had to do everything. And now I look back and I see, you know, firstly, 2 buildings where we have a home and we have an office. We have office staff, we have program coordinators, very able program coordinators. We have supervisors for each of the flats. And we now have a system and we have capable people who can run the place in my absence as well. And so I'm so thankful for everything that we have gone through and everything that we have learned and where we are today. I'd like to encourage everybody to take a lot of encouragement and a lot of courage from our story, because firstly, this is a very simple and replicable model. I'd say that if your intention is good, the whole universe will conspire to make it happen. And just take that leap of faith, the net will appear. Thank you.
Very inspiring story at Arunima, I should say, Aparna Das ma'am. You started off with scratch. How you began with? What was the thought behind it? You narrated your entire journey to us, and I'm sure that the quote, "Journey is more important than the destination," is going to be true with all of us over here. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your experience sharing. Thank you for the courage also to replicate this kind of a model, giving that idea, giving that ideology, sharing your experiences, sharing your challenges. Definitely, those will be helpful for parents as well, whoever wish to take a stance ahead up with respect to this. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. So, moving on to the next speaker, we have Colonel Sahib with us. We have Mr. Colonel Achal Sridharan, who is the founder and MD of Kowai Care. When I spoke to him over the phone, he said, I have had a diverse background, right from the real estate industry to the Kowai Care. So over to you, Colonel.
Thank you, Doctor. And thank you, Hashali, SNIC, and everybody for not only the last 3 days. I did not see all the programs, but whatever I saw was really interesting. And for you to stitch up people their ideas, I think it's a remarkable thing to do. I must say that I'm very proud of you to be part of this today. Thank you very much. No, I don't have much of a history. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir. We can see your Zoom page open.
Oh, sorry. Just 1 second, please.
Yes, we can see your slide now. So.
No, in my case, I was a professional soldier. Now I become a professional, or I've been into senior living and senior care. So to be very honest, this idea of special needs was planted in my brain by none other than Meena, who spoke to me long back, sent me an email first. And one thing led to another. Then I went to AFA, and thanks to Mary and so many people. And you know, then we tried to find out as to what is it that we need to do. I had two of my friends who had special needs kids here in Coimbatore, and with them we met many other parents, and then it took us almost about 3 years. And fortunately, I must say that I had Sriram, Akila's husband, who joined me, and together we brought out this model that we are trying to put into practice. Basically, what we are trying to do is, like Nina said, you are running institutions for senior citizens to take care of them. When the children, most of our children are not with us, including mine, because we send them away. So she said, if you can take care of them, why don't you look at the model where they can also be a sort of a foster parents and live in the community openly with freedom. So that is where I learned this word inclusive living. It cannot be exclusive as far as I was concerned, because we don't want any segregation. So with that in mind, we, with Sriram, myself, and two people from my staff, Purni and Kishore, and we created this master document. And I've just explained to you as to how this model is working. See, first and foremost, we said there should be acceptance and inclusive part of a retirement community. I didn't want to have a separate places for the special needs and separate for my senior citizens. Integrating the guardians and the parents as well as my community was the next thing that I wanted to do, because I felt my senior citizens like me, I'm 72, will be more supportive because they have a lot of time in their hand. And then we have to enable a sort of a feeling of family between everyone else. And thus, a retirement community will perhaps provide that answer to the lurking question, what after us? So what was the philosophy of this entire model? You buy a house with us and come and start living with your son or your children or whatever it is. That is how we conceived it. And then we also create a hostel block and allot an unfurnished room, which you can do it as per the desire of your child. And on the demise of the parents, if the child can continue to stay in your dwelling, please let him stay there or let her stay there, which of course there are certain norms as to how we decide that. And if not, over a period of time, this hostel room becomes his, and we do this small separation, and so that also a sort of a respite both to the parents when the children can be taken care of and be kept in the hostel accommodation. It's a pretty nice hostel accommodation, and I'll just come to that later. And my idea was that they should not pay for the hostel. My public trust should be able to pay for it. Since the public trust was registered only last year, I don't have that much of money. Currently, they are paying me some refundable deposit, which will be refunded to them once my trust starts getting more funds, or my family intends to park some money into that trust. What happens is during the time of the child, your life, you're taking care of your child like anybody else. There's no problem. After the demise of both the parents, or let us say the incapacity in terms of the physical or mental abilities of the parent, because we do see people with dementia, Alzheimer, and multiple issues as you age. In that case, you have to create a beneficiary trust as per law at the age of 18. That trust will be operated by your guardian, but definitely we will have some sort of a control over that money that you're going to keep. In case after your demise, that house can also be sold in case you don't have sufficient funds, and that can be put into your ward's beneficiary trust that you create. And only the interest can be used. For no reason you can touch that money, that principal amount. If there is any shortfall because of medical or other needs, then the public trust of mine, the Care Trust, will supplement that money. The question is that we don't want the principal to be even eroded by a single penny, because when you work out the costing, it is quite high as you age, and we don't know what is the age up to which we have to give the care to the special needs children. And sorry for forgetting one fact, ours is meant for autism, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, and even if somebody is spastic. And now we are thinking of a different model for the blind that I'll not touch today, but this is what we do, and all of them live together. Now, after that, the PWD parent, they have to buy the property, it's allowed, and we do have in every community that we create for retirement communities, certain amount of percentage, depending upon the land, etc. available, reserved only for PWD parents. So that you ensure that the concept can be spread in multiple cities wherever we are. This hostel room, I've already spoken about it, is furnished by the parents, and we actually we want to make it as a trust property, but as on date, we are taking some refundable deposit which will be returned. There are proper documentation, and there are proper legal documents to go this. This is a sort of a room. Of course, this is a representation, is slightly larger than this. And that is the toilet that we give to every room. This toilet is wheelchair friendly, and it comes from Denmark. And this, since we give it to the senior citizens, God forbid somebody, okay, let us say somebody has got cerebral palsy, even that boy can be able to operate himself, perhaps without a third parties coming and touching your body. So this is also given to every single room. The governance model is a backbone. The lifelong PWD is established and institutionalized. What we have done is there is an apex trust. Then at individual units, there is a private trust. Private trust, we found that there is some problem of taxation. So most probably that will be a Section 8 company. And the model is the physical and financial security of the PWD within the integrated community. So the three trusts are interlinked by some means or the other. If you have the guardian is fine, but if the guardian disappears or is not available, then the apex trust must have a control over that money in the beneficiary trust, or some other means you can leave it so that somebody comes and takes care of the needs. We do work out during the period of the life as to what could be the nominal expenses for each individual, depending upon the need for caregiving. So this is the same thing which I already covered, the community trust. The community trust basically is of 4 parents, and one of them is one of the resident owner, and one is a trustee from my public trust. My public trust also has 2 parents with special needs children. One is Sriram, other is Mr. Bala. Both are here, and their children are special needs, but both of them are in the public trust. And the last one, you can choose whoever you want, depending upon the need of the particular community. And the tenure of all these trustees is 2 years. It keeps shifting, excepting the managing trustee. The beneficiary trust, I don't have to say because all of you create one for the special needs kids. So this is how this COVID care and the community trust work. Community trust being a private trust, it cannot seek donation. The public trust is the one that seeks donation and gets the money. Hopefully we should be getting our Section 80G soon. We have crossed most of the hurdles. The community trust will be a trustee of the respective PWD beneficiary trust and covers income, the expenditure of each of the PWD after the demise of the parents. And I already covered it. In case there's a dispute or ambiguity, etc., how it can be resolved. The whole thing is in a document. It's available on our website. It's about 57 pages. You can download it. And any help anybody wants, we'll give it to set it up. We don't want any money for our consultation. The guardian, of course, is anyone that you appoint, and then we have described who the guardian can be and what happens in case the guardian demise occurs, who will be the one who will take his place. We are trying to see as to how best we can make this completely legally safe. Now, Sriram and Akila of the Amazed Us are with us, and the Amazed Us has really joined hands with us because they are the one who find out. You see, unlike many of the others that we have spoken in this event, ours is all adults. I mean, the age varies from 52 to about 23. So they are not small children. So we don't have any school. We do have a vocational center, but everybody's vocation, whatever they can do, either the parents tell us and guide us, or we find it out from Amazed Us when an assessment is done. And then the residents become a sort of a supporting, they play a supporting role. You'll be surprised to see that most of the activities, the things that they create, I'll show you some photographs, have come from a residents teaching these children. So we don't have that special needs children, special educator, or so far no caregiver has been employed because the children are staying with the parents. But we do have, we have found out how they will stay once the hostel starts getting occupied after the demise of the parents. The senior most parent that we have today is a lady, and her son is 52 and daughter is 48. The disposal of the asset takes place by the trust as per the will that you have written. A copy is with us, and, and the money, in case you already have enough money in the beneficiary trust, whoever you want it to be given, it can be given. We have no problem. Not the hostel room, but the house can be sold at the market rate. And the amount will be go to the beneficiary trust, so that in case you calculate you need X amount of money, the value of the property could be this much, so that gets offset, that much of saving is less. Because that goes because the child can shift to the hostel, which de facto comes free. And these living expenses are only the food and any routine medical, serious medical expenses. If the money is not there out of the interest earned, the trust will give that money because it's a public trust. We have also got various things in case the PW expires before the parents and after the parents, etc. The will is a document which needs to be written. Unfortunately, you cannot have a will which can't be changed on the last day. So there are some legal issues we already covered in one of these webinars on wills and will writing. But we do take it that you will not change the will on the last day or just before as a last, you will not change the will, and any changes that you make in the will be intimated to us, so that at the end of the day nobody is disadvantaged. Routine periodical tests, so long as they are there, but of course we do have a system of preventive care where every resident is involved, and our nurses are not nurses, they are health managers. So we have a beautiful system through a software, and the same thing can be done, even for same thing is done instantly. Like all our residents have taken, they've provided with this vaccination in situ. Our staff, the staff's immediate family, their parents, their in-laws, as well as all my special needs children, everybody has been given two shots already. So that we have created a bubble in all our retirement communities so that there is no problem of the virus coming in. Touch wood, we have been fortunate so far. I hope we remain fortunate for some more time. But in case it comes, we are very clear with our protocols as to how we are going to do this home quarantine. Because after the 2 vaccines, I'm told that you don't have such a bad reaction by this virus. So this is the various accounting system, etc. has been given that you can read in the document. I'm not going to cover it here. The miscellaneous points, caregivers. Caregivers do come in case you need the caregiver at some point of time. And we will get caregivers because all our retirement communities, we have no problem of the staff coming in and working for us because we do take care of our staff exceptionally well. And As far as the special needs this thing is concerned, we are dependent on Amaze Trust, and in other cities, we'll join hands with some of the local, the special needs schools. Then one of the problems that we face is the rights to privacy. We can't be putting on this CCTV in every room. So we are now trying to work out with sensors, so that we are trying to work out a protocol by which any something goes wrong, and how do you intervene from outside, and those things are being worked out, because we feel that we cannot have CCTV cameras in each room. And this we are very much concerned, in spite of telling the right of this disabilities bill and how to protect them, that physically they can't be mishandled, yet it is possible. So how to prevent it is an exercise by itself. I can share some of the things that we are trying to do if you want to know it. This is the caregiver projection. I'm just flashing it here. This presentation is available. Please take it. It is based on, from 2021, a salary for the caregiver of 30,000 rupees, etc. PF, bonus, uniform, incidental expenditure for the special needs, food expenses, all those things, whatever is possible, we have taken. It is also takes into account the increment in salary which these caregivers may expect, and 7% increase in food cost, taking into account that inflation will not be more than 7%. So something we have worked it out. This is not absolutely correct. This is not yet being tried out. It is somebody wanted us to do this model for 20 years, and we did it. As to how this will work out, I don't know, but if for you to, like Mary asked me, I'll send it to her. I told her also that this is just an working that we have done. I said, what is it can possibly be? But this is an idea in case you want to have. This is also available. We have made all sorts of projections and given, and the same can be shared by SNIC for you to take it, or you can ask us and we'll send it to you. These are some of the interesting things done by our children. This young lady, she's Karishma, and she's an excellent artist, and she holds exhibitions all over the world. And in fact, she has even addressed the UN. She currently lives in Bangalore. So these are the things made by our special needs adults, I would say, and these were all taught to them by our resident. Because each resident knows something, cross-stitching, this stitching, that stitching. And so they keep that, beautiful programs are made with the parents, so nobody is bored, and they continuously do something like this. Now, this has been done recently by them. They learned it. That, and each one of these showing you this pot hangers has been done by them. And you can see here also, this is of course in Mysore. They are adults, and there are three boys and one girl. And they all are working in a place consequent to the pandemic. They have not been going, but they're keeping themselves occupied. These are some of the things that they made because where they were working was shut down thanks to this virus. This is some of the snapshots. They do have programs. They do have singing. There's a young girl we have who is 48. She was a non-verbal. In 4 months, thanks to the environment, she sang on the World Autism Awareness Day a beautiful song from the movie Guide. How she memorized it, how she sang. I mean, a girl who's hardly verbal. I mean, we were amazed as much as Amazed Trust as to how this could happen, perhaps because of the environment. There's so many people they watch, they eat together with the adults, seniors, citizens, and staff, and then they are with their parents, and then they are together in that activity center. And ultimately, this is what they do, and they do present programs to my elders at least once a month, if not more. In conclusion, I would like to say that we are not any experts, we are facilitators. My strength is my senior citizens and the parents who come with them. And only through that, my only doubt was, how will my senior citizens take this responsibility or integration? I'm very proud to say that it has been a marvelous experience of the seniors becoming more or less like a foster parents to them and keeping an eye and ensuring that everybody is safe. This is something which I don't have to pay for. Nobody has to pay for this because it's a one big family in every retirement community where we have minimum of about 100 to 120 families. So that is the strength that I have. And last but not the least, what these special children give it back to us, it brings so much of joy, not only to me, to my entire team, to the parents, and to my residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Kolna Saab, for your wonderful presentation. Many things got clear for parents with respect to the different kinds of trusts you displayed, the different kind of trusts which work out for our children, also those figures which you displayed as a reference. Definitely do the work of answering many questions of many parents. And you presented a wonderful example of inclusive living, wherein those senior citizens are taking care of the special needs children. And it is kind of a mutual symbiosis for both of them. Amazing presentations or amazing work. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah. So we will move on to the
If
next.
anybody has, sorry, if anybody wants to know this presentation will be given to you, you can always contact us, and anything we can do, it will be totally, as a volunteers only we will do. We don't want any money, please.
Wonderful.
Any advice, any suggestion for anything that you want to do, you can ask us. And to the best of our abilities, my team and I will give it based on our experience in construction, real estate, and care and services. All four things we can help you. Thank you.
Sure, sir. Sure. Thank you so much. We'll move on to our next speaker. We have Dr. Shanti Aulok with us, who is the chairperson and one of the founder members of Muskan. Dr. Shanti Aulok is the chairperson and one of the founding members of Muskan, which is an NGO formed by parents and professionals to provide needed services for improving the quality of life of intellectually challenged children and adults and emotional and knowledge support to the parents. Over to you, Dr. Shanti. Please go ahead with your presentation. Ma'am, you'll have to just unmute yourself so that you're audible to the audience.
How do I, just a second, please.
Now we can hear you, ma'am.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking, I'm just getting
You can
the
share screen option at the bottom. We'll see in the green.
Yeah, no, that's there. Okay, yes.
Yes.
So,
You can move on to the slideshow option. Yeah.
So this, let me share that I was feeling so good that so many people, so many parents, and also non-parents are engaged in creating the service which is so much needed by this section of the society. And I remember 10 years back, we were completely at a loss what to do. And in 10 years' time, we see various models emerging in the field. So I'm very hopeful that slowly, in next 10 years, there would be many more facilities, good facilities for our children. So, see, my presentation is a little different in terms of not detailing out the challenges, but what we tried to do and what we succeeded in doing, and then how do we scale up these kind of facilities in cooperation, in collaboration with the community, like Colonel Sridharan. I mean, that kind of a model is very much on our mind, and we are trying to explore the possibility of that. I would say that every stage, starting from conceptualizing the idea to planning, to implementing, to sustaining, every stage is full of challenges. But you see, once we enter into an uncharted area, what happens is that one has to be ready to have a solution-oriented approach rather than getting bogged down by the challenges. And when we are working with our young people with these kind of conditions, you see, they give us so much energy, they give us so much hope, they give us so much optimism that we just go for solutions. And every challenge, and our motto at Muskan has become, let us not brood over problems, let us think of the solution. Whatever problem, minor or major problem comes, and every problem in life has a solution. So that has been our, I would say, a faith which has really sustained us very well throughout all these challenges. For Muskan, it was a little easier because we were already running a voluntary organization since 1982. We had a lot of experience of working with adults with intellectual disability, and for the last 5-6 years, we are also having multiple disabilities as well as autism. So we had a lot of experience of working with them. And for us, it was adding one more important project to the existing setup. Why I'm saying so, because you see, when I look at Nina and Aparna, I mean, they had to start from the scratch, and definitely it must have been a very challenging task. So now I have stressed more on prototypes of ALF, the various models. And what I'm going to do is firstly discuss the model of assisted living that Muskan tried and what have been our experiences, and then how we are now going to the community, like retirement community, as Colonel Sridharan has mentioned, and we are already in touch with 2 such organizations, so that the whole effort can be scaled up. So when we started in 2012, actually in 2012, our project was on the ground. Before that, it took us 10 years of dialogue with National Trust and many other parent organizations in Delhi, many other NGOs, and how do we go about it? And it was not an easy thing to take the responsibility of lifelong care and providing all possible facilities as well as the security, dignity, safety, and so on. So anyhow, that was a long story. I will not go into it. So in 2012, National Trust could secure for us a community center, multi-purpose community center in a village near Delhi, where we started our facility after investing a lot of money in making it habitable. It was a government building and it was in a very bad condition. So now, what were our concerns? Our concerns were that, one, that it has to be assisted living, based on assisted living philosophy and not care model, because our experience with our young people had clearly shown they are capable of taking a lot of responsibility. They are very keen learners, so a lot of skills can be taught to them. And we were very, very concerned about the dignity of adult life, or for that matter, anyone having a dignified life. And we also knew by that time that they are such good I would say, persons who are very keen to take responsibilities and enjoy taking certain kind of roles. So once you have that kind of a faith and are patient in you see, helping them learn certain skills, they become asset to the organization. So we wanted to do that when we started. We were not very sure how much, you see, in a residential setup, how we are going to do all this. But our philosophy was that. We also realized that any adult needs a certain amount of privacy in living arrangement. So though you see let me share with you that the community center which was given to us by Delhi government, its lease they did not extend because of all kinds of problems, particularly the pressures of the village, because the whole complex had turned out to be so good that everybody was eyeing on it. So what happened was that we have now built extra construction in our existing building in Vasant Kunj, Muskan building in Vasant Kunj. So we added one floor and we added this residential facility. So now you see, providing individual rooms was a tough thing. So, but what we did was we created in a bigger room, we created small cubicles with partition, etc., so that everybody has a bed, has a table chair, has a little working space, has an almirah where all the stuff can be kept, and it is kind of a private space. So we were very, and what happened was we realized it helps so much in you see, minimizing the interpersonal kind of a little tiffs which may go on in people of the same age. So then nutrition and health. Nutrition, of course, was a thing, had to be completely, you see, looked after in a very healthy manner. But health, looking after health was a challenge because, you see, one never knows what kind of health demands may come, and affording health care in cities, or for that matter anywhere, is an expensive affair. So we were very much engaged into preventive care, and we also established connections with few dispensaries, with few hospitals, etc., that in case any of our resident has a more serious health problem, and which happened twice in the last 7-8 years, that they will not only provide space, but they will also, you see, much subsidized kind of a charges would be there. So that was important. Learning and work opportunity was very, very important. And you see, when our residents were in community center in the village, they used to travel to Muskan every day by bus, by our own bus that we had bought for them. And the whole day they will spend 9 to 4 and will go back to their residential area. So learning and work opportunity, it was full arrangement was already existing, and now since they are in the same building, even more it has become very, very approachable. Indoor and outdoor recreational opportunities was of course, all kinds of recreational opportunities, whether it was outing, whether it was going to restaurant, whether it was going to fun park, or it was going to other cities. So all those were, fully taken care of. We also did one thing, which was families' involvement. So it wasn't that once families leave their children with us, then after that, their role does not become minimized. In the sense that, of course, there is a management committee where 50% representation is of the parents whose wards were living with us. But besides that, like festival celebration, birthday celebrations, or if there is any other kind of need due to, you see, some staff getting ill and we needed somebody's support. So families' involvement have been a very important and very good strength and support to the management for running these kind of things. We also looked into that whatever were our charges, they had to be affordable. Affordability meant that if we actually want all our expenses to be covered by the payments by the parents, we realize that very few parents will be able to come forward and avail this facility. So we set a standard that this much can be afforded. And let me share with you that because we believed more in corpus rather than monthly, payments, because we had no experience, and if the family is not able to do it or family disappears, in some cases that may also happen. So how do we afford the sustenance of our services? So what we did was that 15 lakhs was the corpus. And we said that the interest of this corpus will be used to run the facility. We knew at that time that the interest would be insufficient. At that time in 2012, the interest rates were 8 to 9, and now they are less than 6%. But we felt that whatever extra will be required, financial requirement, we will have to raise by donations and by community support. We went with that idea. You see, what happens is initially when we started with 6 adults, 2 ladies and 4 men. And at that time, our expense per person was 35,000 per month. Though we did not have to pay any rent, but the staff salary is a very big component, which takes away a lot of finances. So financial affordability to the families at that time, I'm talking about the model that we started and we are still continuing. Gender inclusiveness was another, right from the beginning, because many people were saying, are you going to keep men and women in the same? I said, of course, our young people, they're very capable of learning the norms which are being set up. So gender inclusiveness, right from the beginning, we went for that. Now, here I would like to say that we have to be a little careful in following what we call the Western model of independent living. I cannot go at the moment the details of it, but the two societies are different in certain amount of the kind of family setup we have. We do still, the family is an important unit, and we do consider the parents, children, and also near relatives to be a part of, our living existence. So Western model of independent living is something we have not followed. We have followed what we say is the needs and the concerns and the aspirations of our young people. So they are living together, they are doing a lot of things together, they are helping each other. There is such a good observation we have had, because as I said, we also included people with wide range of kind of the levels of disability. So we found that some of our those who needed very high support, like even feeding them, or in making them drink water or other things, some of our other residents were very happily ready to do those kind of tasks. So it was more like a family unit living together. Now, what has been the experiences of running this? Whatever we thought we would like to do, we could do it. And we could do it because young men and women, they had the kind of, capabilities. We often underestimate their capacities, and that I'm sharing so often this thing, that if we just in the situation, the kind of demands which come up, and we see how we can make our residents aware of those demands, how we prepare them to take certain kind of responsibilities and so on. And by doing that, all of us make our own existence more meaningful by becoming supportive and helping hand to other people. So it really enhanced our understanding of their needs and apprehensions. There was never any problem with regard to handling sexuality. That does not mean that the sexual needs were not there, but a proper dialogue, counseling helped in people following certain kind of norms, and we also respecting their sexual needs. So I cannot go in detail about it, but some other time we can talk about these things. Very responsible interpersonal behavior. So not like conflicts coming up or complaining of one person complaining of other, but a very minimal kind of a thing happened. Involvement of families was a very good idea, we realized, and families also felt good about it, that they can. One thing that they get to know how their children are living, one, and second, they also feel good that they can help in smooth running and effective running of a residential facility. What we have realized is that assisted living facility cannot run on charity. After, as I told you that we initially thought that the interest earned from the corpus we will use that, and rest we will raise our own donations. When the whole organization is running on community support, you cannot you cannot decide that a residential unit also can be run on donations by others. At the same time, whatever parents have, they have to plan and they have to think about creating financial arrangement for their own children. So what happened was that as the interest rates were going down, and Muskan's expenses were increasing, so what we did was we used our team used to develop all the financial accounting in such a manner that every item shows how much expenses were there, then it shows how much interest was being earned how much salary was getting into, I mean, what was the cost of the salary and so on. And so this much extra expense was shown to the parents. And I'm very happy to share that when we showed all that, many parents, they were willing to cover up the expenses, the additional expenses of their children. So, and of course, there are parents, there are 4 people who do not have any family member left now. So there are 2 or 3 BPL candidates also. But what happened was that somehow for fewer people you can raise donations from others, and the rest the parents themselves were willing to, those who could afford were willing to support those who could not. So
sorry to interrupt, ma'am, we are running out of time, so we'll have to quickly try to
okay. So I never realized how much time I have taken. So one thing, now quickly I will say this, community support is more reliable than the government support. I have a lot of experience of that. Medical insurance is important, and long-term financial sustainability also we have to keep in mind. Now, the exploring other arrangements of assisted living facility, what I have recently come across is, of course, the organization-run facilities, as Nina and as Aparna has shown. Then there is also joint work by organization and families in creating group homes in existing apartment buildings, which Colonel Sridharan has shown an example. And we are working with 2 such kind of groups to create spaces for group homes in the existing apartment buildings for retirement community. And then the third is the high care facility. High care facilities where the person requires a very high support and medical as well as for everyday living. And in Delhi, we do find that 2 such facilities are there. Of course, the expense is very high, but if you can manage, then you can also think of the child, depending upon the need, to do the same. And so I'm not going too much into, but I would like to take one issue which comes up. That is that parents do not want to part with their children till they are alive. Now, this is a very major difficulty and very understandable difficulty. So we were trying to find out what could be done so that the parents' need also is met, and also as the safe and future for the children is also met in the process. So we said we can have group homes in apartment buildings, preferably, where the either there's a short stay home, so that 4 or 5 people who are going to live there, they do a bonding. The 4 or 5 families also get to understand each other, and we can make a program that at least minimum 1 week, a month, they should be living together. That is one. And of course, the entire expense is going to be met by the families, but Muskan's role would be in training of the staff, in supervision of the staff, in creating programs for the residents, as well as monitoring of this. So that would be Muskan's role. In fact, it would be a collaboration of Muskan with such groups who are running apartment retirement community in existing apartment building. The second was that we could also have this, that in the group home, they live during the week and go back during the weekend, because when they are living in the group home, they can learn, they can work, and it would avoid commuting, and it would also provide opportunity for the link to remain within the family and the children. So we have to think about, because very often, it is very difficult decision that your children go away when you are alive. This is a little few photographs. The one which was, one of our resident, he lost his mother, and no other family member is there now, and it's a story in itself. I'm not going into how difficult it becomes, but then the chautha, the prayer meeting was held within Muskan, and our other residents also participated. This is a kind of cubicle that I was talking, that each resident has a separate cubicle, and so they can maintain their privacy, and all kitchen and everything is running. So that's what I had to share during this presentation. Thank you very much. And we have to learn a lot from each other, and we must make some kind of arrangement where we learn from each other's experiences. And one more thing, I was thinking that if we could share the PowerPoints that we have presented today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shanti, for your insights about Muskan. Definitely the term which you coined, that community support is more important than the government support, becomes utmost important when we are running an assisted living setup. Thank you so much for your time, ma'am. Yeah, you'll just have to do the stop share screen option from the top of
the pause share. Okay.
Yes.
Stop share. Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. So we'll move on to our next speaker for the day. We have Mr. A.K. Kundra with us, who is the founder and director of Autism Ashram. Mr. A.K. Kundra has been involved with inclusive education and autism for 38 years. He is an ardent practitioner of inclusion, not only in education, but also in social inclusion. He is running Asia's largest residential home for autistic adults and children. Over to you, Kundra, sir. Sir, you will have to unmute yourself. You are
Hello, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, I've come in at a very late moment. So I don't know how many of your participants are actually listening and how many are actually relaxing now. Nevertheless, I'll try to, shake them up and wake them up so that we can all participate in this together.
I'm sure everybody is live.
I hope so too. Yeah. So good thing that, the challenges and the opportunities. So, Autism Ashram is what we actually thought of. And it's a very beautiful story that made me start this Autism Ashram. I'll share with you. Yeah. So, are we good to go?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So we are based in Hyderabad, and Autism Ashram was one of the my dream projects, which we conceived that it should be one of the best that we can, because nobody has asked us to do it. We did it because we wanted to do it. So a residential home for children and adults with autism. Unlike most homes, I made it very exclusive to children with autism and young adults with autism, and wanted to create some benchmarks to so that the same can be replicated all over India. And I'm very happy that we have already collaborated with the family in Delhi, and one such home is already up and functioning. And we are coming up with one more home like this in Gujarat, near Ahmedabad. And so now it is much easier because we have learned. We have learned what the child needs, what the young adult needs, and we have slowly, gone from having a home for children to setting up a community of families living with autism, the Autism Guardians Village. So there have been challenges, and I'll not take much of your time because we are already, I think, short of time. But I'll share one story with you. I was sitting in our day center when one of the parents came down to me, and he told me, Kundra Sahab, I'm planning to adopt a boy with 21-year-old boy. He had a son, 34-year-old, that was almost 9-10 years back. So I told him, I said, how is that going to help you? He said, no, when I'm not around, I myself am very aged now. So मेरे बाद मेरे बच्चे का कौन ख्याल रखेगा? तो ये जो मेरा adopted बेटा है, he will be looking after my natural son with autism. So I told him, what makes you believe that he will do that? So he said, then what do you think? I said, no, the day your eyes are closed, he will open the gates and your natural son will walk out. He said, will that happen? I said, I guarantee you. I'll give it in writing to you. So he said, what should we do? I said, let us search for a home, a residential home for persons with autism. And you'll not believe it, 2 days we Googled and we did not come up a single home exclusively being run for children or adults with autism. And wherever we telephone, we got standard answers. Does the boy have any behavioral issues? And when we would say, yes, he does have, they would say, no, I'm sorry, we can't take an autistic adult who has behavioral issues. So I learned something that, and I told him, Mr. Sharma, forget everything. I'll open a home for your son. And having said that, बोलना बहुत आसान है. And I realized I had made a huge commitment. And that is how the challenge which presented itself through this boy, Dilip, became a great opportunity for me to showcase something, to make something, to build up something which today is looked down upon as one of the best in the country. And I'm very happy that children, families, mothers, fathers, they're all very happy having their child with us. So I think this challenges to opportunities is what assisted living facilities are all about. And I think this is how we need to go forward. Now, when I thought of the setting up the home, the biggest challenge was finance. And I'm sharing with you, I sold my own home, personal home where I used to live, to buy the land to set up this Autism Ashram. And the kind of money that was needed, I thought of I went to many homes in India and abroad as well, and I realized these children don't need homes. They need spaces. They need an environment where they can be happy. They need a place where somebody lets them be. जैसे हैं वैसे accept करो हमें. So that is what I realized, and that is when I selected the land. We selected a huge place running into acres, and fortunately there were 220 mango trees there, and today that is the beauty of our ashram. That is the pride of our ashram. And the third challenge was the caregivers. See, you can get all the finances in the world, you can get all the land in the world, you can create the best of the buildings that you can, but remember one thing, an assisted living facility is all about caregiving. अगर आप बच्चों का ख्याल नहीं रख सकते, ये buildings, the land, the environment is of no use. Because personally, I cannot look after every child directly. And we had planned for 30 children to join us, and we were on one-on-one caregiving. एक बच्चे के साथ एक caregiver. And one of the mothers who came to me just 3 months after I had opened up, and you know what she said? Sundra sir, by December, all these 30 rooms will be full. And she was absolutely right. I had to create 20 more rooms because the demand, the need of the family was very huge. इतनी जरूरत है कि अगर हर स्टेट में एक ऑटिज्म आश्रम भी खुल जाए तो भी कम है. So, but like I told, I was very fortunate. I got somebody who was a master's in caregiving from England, and she was the one who selected the first batch of 13 caregivers for me. And then each of these caregivers brought in more caregivers, and today we have approximately 5 to 6 caregivers more than what we actually need. So I think if one can manage all these three, you can imagine what all can be done. Now, let me again come back to this finance. The buildings were being constructed, and one day a parent came down. I did not know him at all. And when he saw the half-constructed buildings, हम लोग एक पेड़ के नीचे खड़े थे. He came down और मेरा हाथ पकड़ के मेरे हाथ में उसने एक चेक रख दिया. When I opened the check, it was 5 lakh rupees check. So I told him, I said, see, you don't even know me. I could be a fly-by-night operator. He said, नहीं sir, आप इसको complete करेंगे. I know, I have met many people, but आप इसको complete करेंगे. And that day I felt how much responsibility I had taken. And after that, I never looked back. Money kept flowing in, and parents have been very, very supportive. मैं सिर्फ कुछ भी जरूरत हो आश्रम में, मैं सिर्फ कहता हूँ कि भाई मुझे चाहिए, and parents come forward to donate and help me out with that. Recently, I wanted to buy 2 oxygen concentrators. You will not believe it. In a day's time, I had money donated for not 2, but for 3 oxygen concentrators for the autism community in front of me and for the children here, just in case during COVID times if we need. So that is the kind of support the community gives you if you do good work. Now, for all the parents out there who want to set up a home, all the parent communities who want to set up a home, let me tell you one thing. You must have a home where there is total transparency. Any home where you want to admit your child, if there is no transparency, trust me, you must never think of putting a child there. And when I thought about making the home, I thought, what would the parent want? I put myself in the shoes of the parent. and I made a list of questions which a parent would want to be answered. And the first thing that came to me was that I must ensure that the child is visible to the parent 24/7. And we were the first in India, the first home in India to set up cameras inside the rooms. Today, a parent can sit back at home and relax when he sees his child happy. If the child is sick, the child is sick, but he is visible. So I think transparency is one of the most important aspects of any home that you as a parent are planning to set up, or you want your child to join a home. अगर जहाँ पे ट्रांसपेरेंसी नहीं है, ऐसे होम में कभी ज्वाइन मत करना. So I was just telling you, I put myself in the parent's shoes because I'm a professional. I'm not a parent. But today, I am the parent of 55 children by choice. So, and I asked myself, any home that I set up, what would the parent want? And I realized the first thing I must give the parent is safety of the child. If the child is being abused physically or sexually, what big deal? Let it be the best air-conditioned home in the world. So the first and foremost parameter I have set out and created and implemented is ensuring safety of the children living with me. The second thing which any parent should be wanting to see is hygiene. If your child is not living in hygienic conditions, it's of no use. So safety and hygiene are the first two pillars that you need to build when you're making a home. That is the biggest challenge. And the third thing is, the third pillar, as per me, is the health of the child. The child has to be physically fit and emotionally happy. So this is the third pillar which I feel is very, very important for any home to come up. And if you as a parent or as a parent community are planning to set up any such thing, ये तीन पिलर्स को रखेंगे तब जाके आपका चौथा पिलर हैप्पीनेस शुरू होगा. When you come and visit a child umpteen number of times and you find a child happy, you will be happy as a parent. The minute you enter the gate, children, they just leave their parents and run towards the room. Why? Because they are happy in this environment. They are happy in Autism Ashram. So I think these are the four pillars. Anybody wanting to set up a home or any parent wanting to put his child in a home, you must ensure these four pillars are being adhered to. Otherwise, you should not enter that home. Now, many parents told me, sir, 18 years के बच्चों को ही रखिए, छोटे बच्चे रखेंगे तो मुश्किल होगा. But then I thought, if I'm going to cater to only 18 plus children, what about the smaller children? Children who really need help. What about the children of single moms who are 7 years, 8 years, 10 years, and the mom has to go to the home or to the work? तो अगर वो काम पर जाएगी तो उसके बच्चों को कौन देखेगा? So that is why I kept 7 as the age of entry for a child to be in my Autism Ashram. And I feel I made a good decision. I got a child whose mother is no more, father remarried, and that child is with me. So, my age criteria I feel was justified. There are many children with me who have lost one of their parents. During COVID time, I get a lot of calls of smaller children. Both the parents are no more now. And I'm trying to coordinate with them as to how best I can help them. And I think age criteria should not be there when you're setting up a home, because if you are going to look after the adults, who is going to look after the younger children? So I think this has to be kept in mind when you are setting up a assisted living facility. Now, lifespan care. After us what? मेरे बाद क्या? मेरे बाद मेरे बच्चे का कौन ख्याल रखेगा? Because when I met Mr. Sharma, who wanted to adopt a child, I realized if there is one Mr. Sharma to the organizers, in case I am exceeding my time, just let me know, please. I will be needing another couple of minutes. Is that okay?
Yes, sir. Sure, sure.
Yeah. After a SWOT is something which, I kept in mind. And, from day one, I used to tell parents, if anything were to happen to you or to your family, you are going back after dropping a child. And if something happens to both of you, you don't have to worry about your child anymore. Your child will live with me for his entire life. आप कुछ पैसा छोड़ के जाएं, ना छोड़ के जाएं, it does not matter. So that is something which I thought should be the founding pillars, the foundation for which Autism Ashram stands for. कि parent कुछ छोड़ जाए तो fine, I am very happy, but I will never approach a relative कि आपका बच्चा orphan हो गया है, lost his earning member, so please support me. No. Any child who comes to Autism Ashram comes for lifespan care. Whether the parent intends to do that or not, it does not matter. So I think this is a very important criteria, and it's a challenge. If a parent is no more, you can't tell the child, I'm sorry, your father stopped sending me financial support, so you must leave now. Where will he go? कहाँ जाएगा वो? So I think we have to be very, very, passionate, compassionate, to think on these terms, and only then one should accept to set up a home for children with autism. Now, I think personally that the future of autism or for any special needs is a residential home for the child, either now or in the future. And I would suggest to every parent, while your eyes are open, find out a home whichever you feel is good. Put your child there on and off. Try out your child going to a home so that your child learns to live without you. Don't wait for COVID to come and strike. So many calls are coming to me, parents are no more, and the child is now left in the lurch. So I think every parent must visit some home, tie up with the home, create a will that in case something happens to my child, please come and take my child. Help my child when I'm not there. So I think this is the best answer to after a SWOT. Finally, Autism Guardians Village, one of the safest communities, parent communities created by us is the Autism Guardians Village, which is already existing, thriving, pulsating in a vibrating mode. Every parent living here in Autism Guardians Village is the happiest parent, the least worried parent. He knows Autism Ashram will look after my child when I'm not around. Not only Autism Ashram, the rest of the community will look after the child when the parents are not there. And that is the true answer to after a SWOT. Thank you very much. I hope you will ponder over what I have said, think over what I have said, and act over what I have said. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kundra, for your presentation of Autism Ashram. There were many things you got us very clear about with respect to the finance, land, caregivers, which are the major challenges, and the way you have designed with respect to the child's safety, hygiene, health, and happiness. Thank you so much. I believe, yes, age criteria is one of the things which should not be taken care of, or which should be kind of acknowledged as soon as we can. I'm sure you all will come up with the answers for the same. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, we'll move on to our next speaker. We have Mary Madam with us. Mary Madam is the founder of Action for Autism. Mary Ma'am, over to you. I believe, Madam, you are on mute, so you'll have to unmute yourself.
It's unmuted.
Yes, yes. Now I can hear you. Now we can hear you.
Okay. So thank you again to Dr. Asher, to Harshali, to SNIC and everybody for this amazing conference that has been going on. And I have been preceded by so many amazing speakers. I really don't know what else I have to say, right? Because all of us are doing similar stuff. So I'm not sure that there is much that I have to say. But yes, it's a topic that has really come into its own in the last decade or so in India. It's a subject on which we have tried to work for about 20 years now, but had not got anywhere because people were not ready for it. And it's only in the last 10 years that things have started moving. And, currently, I would say assisted living has really come into its own. I like the idea of using the word prototype because it really is. I don't think any of us has the final answer yet. We're still at the prototype stage, trying to get to what can be the best model for India. And of course, there are multiple models, and maybe I'll touch on that a little bit. And I have to, before I carry on, I have to say that there are actually many, many group homes already in India. In addition to the ones that we've spoken about, group homes that have been here for 40 years or so, right? There is Aadhar and Gods and Sangopita and I can't remember, there's a whole lot of others. So we are not the only ones. The difference is that since they started a long time back, many of them run a little bit like institutions. Whereas I think that currently what we are doing is we made the shift to running more like homes rather than institutions. And that I think is the real shift. And many of them are actually for adults. Some of them are also for young children, but many of them are for adults. But the shift, I think, is really moving away from an institutional model to a more home-like kind of a model. And I have to say that rather like Shantiji mentioned earlier, because I was listening in briefly in the middle of the other things that I was trying to handle. Ananda, the group home that we started, was not really started for my son, because we are, Action for Autism as an organization that's been around for 30 years. We are acknowledged as a center of excellence for persons with autism. And a group home was a natural progression because the people we started working with when they were little, they're now all adults. And parents have finally, despite our prodding of many years, have started thinking, yes, we need to do something for them. So this has been a natural progression. So to put it a little bit into context, like some of the speakers must have done, I too have traveled to at least 12 different countries, mostly in the developed world, including, of course, a lot of homes in India, but traveled to a huge number of, on every continent in the world to look at group homes. And I would always get very excited. Of course, in all those countries, there are a lot of rubbish homes that are run like institutions, but those are not the ones I wanted to see. I wanted to see good quality ones. And when you see the good quality ones, you feel very excited that we need to set up something like that. But then there was always this sense of, oh God, how are we ever going to do it? Because the systemic differences are so huge. It's not just that we are culturally different, which is fine. We can make our cultural adaptations. But the point is that there are absolute basic systemic differences, something that I keep mentioning every time. One is that in every developed world, including the ones that are not like first world countries like South Africa or even some of our Far East Asian countries, getting personnel to work in these places is not a big challenge because trained personnel is something, a good quality trained personnel that can work with people with autism is something that you can get. That is not something that is true of our country. The other thing is the finances, because all said and done, I know we like to believe that we are a very, doing well, financially we are going to do very well. Reality is that there is a large number of people who have started doing better, but we've got a huge number of people who are poor. And as an organization, we do not turn anybody away, regardless whether they have the money or not, in all our services. So we do have a large number of people from economically deprived families, and getting finances, therefore, and also in India, you don't really have the, what should I say, the giving thing. It's becoming more now, but it's not really there. You give to religious places, you give to things like that, but you don't give to community programs. That is not such a strong thing. And many of our families do not have the wherewithal to pay. But of course, for a place to be sustainable, we cannot be relying on community giving. But to start off, that has to be one of the things sometimes. And the final one is the role of the state, because ultimately the state has to be the one that ensures that a home that is being run is run on the correct lines with the right kind of systems and treatment and everything in place. Currently, the way it is run, every home tries to ensure that we are run the right way. But that is, how do we know that another home that starts off, I could say all the right things. I could be saying all the right things. How does anybody know what we are doing at Ananda? Right? So the role of the state in this is very, very important, which we don't have. So in the long term, these were worrying things when I would be watching, but then we decided that, we can't sit worrying about the bigger picture. We will worry about the bigger picture. We will try to change about things because we are an advocacy organization. But at the same time, we can just start off doing what we can, just like everybody else on the panel here has done. So we've done, and the purpose of setting up Ananda has been, one is what will happen to individuals who need moderate to high levels of support. Those who are fairly independent will perhaps be able to manage in the community, but there's a whole population of individuals with autism, as well as other disabilities, who would continue to require support. Even though they become a little bit independent, they will continue to require support. So that was one of the purposes. The other one was to provide respite, because there will be families who have crisis at home. Like we have been approached during COVID, the number of families that have approached us, or organizations that have approached us, because so the family members have all got COVID, here's the kid who needs a place. Or it could be that the family needs surgery and they need a place. The family needs to travel urgently, and the young person hates traveling, so needs a place. So respite for the person with disability, so that they don't have to, and we don't call it respite for families, it is respite for the persons with disabilities from their families and from family events and from other things that are happening, and of course vice versa. So that is really the main purpose of setting up Ananda, and of course to be a model for replication. Once we reach that place, we are very far away from being a model for replication at all. We have a lot of learning to do, but all the programs that we run, other than our assisted living, run as models for replication. And they have been replicated across the country as well as outside the country. And we look at Ananda that way, but we are still very far from there, right? So it is essentially run, we do not run Ananda as a place where you can come and dump your child. And okay, this child is here and, just a place to stay. We run it like a home. And again, everything I'm saying is true for every other speaker, I'm certain. I haven't been listening, I'm quite certain everybody thinks along the same line. So it's nothing unique that I'm saying. But we run it like a home like any other, and it is set up like a home like any other. So we have a kitchen and we have an open kitchen. People often ask us, how do you run an open kitchen with kids with autism? But if you have the systems in place, if you have the accessibility measures, if you have the structure in place, you can do that. So it's just like a home, right? And we all sit and eat together at the same table. We do things together. So basically, it is a home like any other. And then, of course, we have a team that is very well trained, that helps, that assists our young people. They don't just live there and that's it. Teach them to do chores around the house, to teach them to do chores in their room, in their house, help in the kitchen, help outside, work in any way that they can contribute the way any of us would be doing chores in the house. And the important thing to keep in mind is that, and the reality of our country is that Most of our young people with autism happen to be males. At Ananda, we have men and women living there, of course, but most of them happen to be males. And if you're a male child in an Indian family, you usually don't lift a finger. And that does not change with autistic children, right? So many of them come to us without not having really learned how to do any chores. And we have to help them see that these are things that are part of your life and you can also do it. And once they learn how to do chores, their sense of self and their sense of, like, I can do this also, it changes them in very subtle and important ways. So they do chores around the house, they do chores in the field, they outside, they go to work. Everybody walks down in the morning to the vocational and they go to work and they work at various things depending on what their abilities are, what their likes are, what their strengths are. And till recently, we were not giving them a stipend at our main place in Jasola. We give a stipend to all our people who work based on what their output is. So here also we have recently started a small stipend for everybody for the work that they are doing. So they go to the workplace, they spend their time there. Those who are studying, they work on their lessons as well to appear for the NIOS. And they also have recreation festivals, community participation. When we got the land, we all felt a little bit, like, oh God, it's a little bit in the village. We should have been in the community. And we have this unfortunate way, city people have the unfortunate way of thinking that community is only in the city. It's not in villages. But the village also has a community as much as the city. And our people are all a part of the community. They participate in all community events that are happening. People in the community know them. Let me try and find some of them was also. People in the community know them. They are invited for weddings, for namkarans, for all kinds of stuff. So we've been invited to somebody's farm for a meal. We are invited to go and visit them at their places. When there is a wedding or something happening, we are invited for those. So our residents are a part of the community that they live in, right? And that is the way it has to be. I think the most important thing for many group homes to think about is the team, because the team ultimately determines what, and I'm sure other speakers have mentioned this, determines what kind of support people would get and how they would be assisted. And it's very important for the team to, and it's not about love and care, because that's something that parents often talk about, love and care. Love and care is not enough. There has to be an understanding of the dignity of the person, of the individuality of the person who is assisting, who I'm assisting. So those are things that are very, very, very important. So the investing in the team is a really, really big one. And I'm sure that's big for everybody. And having the governance systems and policies down. We have most of it down, but we're still fine-tuning it because we are still learning. I cannot say that we've got everything in place. We have everything in place, but we are still working on fine-tuning and making them stronger, better, more solid. Every now and then something else strikes us and we say, this is something we should change in this policy. That is what needs to change. Or we listen to somebody and we decide, this is what they're doing. That sounds like such a great idea. We should be putting it into our system. So those are things that we are still working on. We have our systems in place, but we are still working on them because it is a work in progress. Ananda is a work in progress. And I'm sure many of us who are speaking here would think the same way about the programs that we run. They're really works in progress because I don't think we have the exact final ultimate answer for everything. There are lots of models of residences currently in the country. I'm sure people have shared, Colonel Sridharan has shared one model that he works on. And I know that there is the same model that actually Forum for Autism in Mumbai had been, kind of gone and met some of the builders over there with them because they were very keen to start something similar in Pune. And I'm sure there are a few like that already in different parts of the country that we don't know about. We really have a large country and we don't know. There may be, what Colonel Sridharan is doing. Maybe there are more of those around in the country that we don't know yet about, and we'll find out in time. So there are many models of residents in the country, and different people have different ideas how they should be run. And I know that Shantiji runs something like what we are running, but also she's talking to one of these big, what should I say, retirement homes to also include people with disabilities there. So that's another model that will be coming up. So there are many, many models that will eventually come up, but there are many challenges to this. And I will quickly, how much time do I have? 5 minutes? 10 minutes? Do I have about 10 minutes? I'll carry
Yes, carry on, ma'am.
on in the presumption that I have 10 minutes.
Yes, carry on.
How did I go to this place? How did I come here? Oh God, I've lost the slide that I was looking at. Is it this one? Yeah. No, not this. Yeah. This. All right. So there are many challenges that all of us try to convert to opportunities. One is the sustainability. And the sustainability is not only the financial. That is a smaller one. The financial can be done. And I know that for homes like, say, Aparna's, Arunima, I know that Arunima must be at a stage that Action for Autism was when about 20 years back, where we were constantly struggling for money and, believing that the money will come and stuff like that. So, and it does, money comes. And I'm sure Aparna will agree with me on that if she's still around. So money comes, but I think the sustainability aspect, the bigger one, which is one that really, is something that we are thinking of and trying to work out how we're going to do this, is what happens when the current team of people working there are gone. We have to plan for that now. Right now, I'm there, my team is there. So I have to make sure that there is a second rung that is built up, that if I were to drop dead, who knows if I don't die of COVID in a month's time, right? I mean, the COVID has taught us that nobody, mostly as parents, we think we are immortal. We'll be there forever. We don't want to do anything because we think, hum jab tak hai, sab kar lenge. But COVID has taught us, ye hota nahi hai. Things change. And when the current level of people running it, when they are not gone, what happens? That is the sustainability. That is a huge challenge. And we are working on that to figure out, what should happen if this people are not there, then who are the next 3 people who will be running this place? So that sustainability is a very, very big one. The other one, of course, is having all the systems and policies in place. And and having them, because you can't have, it's not like old tribal culture where word of mouth carries everything down. Everything has to be written down, filed, accessible to anybody who wants it. So systems and policies in place. The team I talked about, because for us, that is always a very big one. And how do we, continue to, because see, even with the team that you have, there will be attrition because some of them will want to get married. They may want to have children. They may suddenly decide, I love the subject of autism. I want to study more. It has happened to us that they've fallen in love with this subject and they want to do a PhD, right? So there will be attrition. So how do you have a constant stream of team members coming in who are as committed, as willing, as understanding of the personhood of people with autism and other disabilities? The other thing is that and I talked about it yesterday when I was speaking, or maybe day before, I can't remember, at the SNIC conference, that the disabled person's rights have to have primacy. We have to move from the parents' rights to the individual rights. We are still very stuck on the parent rights. It's the disabled person's rights that must have primacy. And whatever we do, one of the things we do at AFA is we ask the person, what do you want? And I know some of the group homes do it as well. We are not the only one. But the point is we do that. We ask them, what do you want? Sometimes we slip up. We are human. Some of our team members slip up and we say, did you ask the person or you only ask the parent? You have to ask the person what he or she wants. What they say has to be accepted. And, one of the reasons why it is very important, and also to take it to the next point also, is that autism challenges every perception of our understanding of what is normalcy, of what is disability. It challenges our perceptions of disability. It challenges every perception that we have of, say, intelligence. It challenges, for instance, intelligence for us, if we see somebody going around like this, we will say, isko to kuch nahi pata hai. If this is what he does all the time. Autism challenges that, because you do not know whether within that person who's doing this the whole day and not speaking at all is maybe a brain that is 130 degrees, 130 IQ. Autism challenges those perceptions. It challenges perception of every kind of personhood we have. And that is something that is very, very important to keep in mind when we are in a group home, because there we think that abuse is only physical. It is not. The bigger abuse is not physical. We look at physical abuse and we say, oh, that should not happen. But the bigger abuse is when the abuse of personhood happens. When people do not take my mind to be a mind. When people do not take my intellect to be an intellect. When people do not take my wants to be a want. And in a group home, which is where they're going to spend their life. When people come to us, they come there for life. They're going to live their life out there. Imagine feeling that I'm living in a place where my thoughts, my desires, my personhood is not important. I'm given everything I want to eat, but that's not everything. That's not everything. So that is something that helping the team to understand and helping the parents understand. And we've had challenges with parents, and I'll give you one example. And these are parents who are very intelligent, very well-traveled, they've seen group homes elsewhere. So for instance, when an individual wants to do something, and we feel that we will give the person a choice and like a Lakshman Rekha, you can have your choice, but be within this Lakshman Rekha, right? Just like it is for all of us. We can't do everything we want, right? I might love going for a swim in my bikini, okay? But I'm not, oh no, or maybe I have been lived in the US and I love to sunbathe in my bikini on my balcony. Am I going to do it on my balcony in Delhi here where everybody can look in? No, I won't, because there is a Lakshman Rekha that we have to keep in mind. And the same is true for people with autism. You have to tell them that, this is how far you can go, but I will not stop you. You can do this, but you want to do it till here, till there, etc. Sorry. But we often have a challenge with parents who feel that the individual must not be allowed to take that decision. It has to be told to them and they must do that. So for instance, if there is an individual who likes to use the mobile and overuses it, so parents feel that we must stop the mobile. Our thing is, does anybody stop you from using your mobile if you're using it too much as a parent? Has anybody stopped you? Then what right do I have to stop them? So what we will do is we will tell them, this time to this time, you're free to use the mobile. And that time to that time, and give it to them in a visual schedule that these times in the day I will use it, and the rest of the time I do. And that time you're free to use your mobile. We've actually had parents who had said, then we cannot keep our child in a place like this because you do not know how to control them. But we don't believe in controlling them, just like we won't control you, and I don't want anyone to control me. And that is the personhood that we often forget when we are putting them in a group home. And that happens because parents do not get it yet, right? And the other big challenge is letting go of the child in their lifetime. Most parents feel, hum jitne tak alive hai, bacche ko saath mein rakhe uske baad. But then it is kind of a double whammy. It is losing your parent and losing what you know as your home. It is much better to have them come and stay while the parent is still around, knowing that I stay here, but I have my parents. And then slowly that ability to live without the parent comes. And we feel that's a better one. But then, of course, every parent and every family has to make their own choice. But we really believe that that would be a better one. And this is something that I think parents will eventually, as we work with them, get to know in time. So essentially, these are some of the points I had. And I just want to say that, as far as Neeraj is concerned, I had done the same, what I'm talking about. I had always, Neeraj is my son, for those who don't know. He's 41 now. And I had spoken to him from the time he was about 20, that once when you're older, you will go and live in your own home. You will have your own place. You won't have to live with this mama. And my son is not, he's minimally verbal. He's not what people call high functioning or anything. But I used to just talk to him about it, that, you will eventually live in your place. It'll be such fun. There will be lots of other young people like you. So I have always built it up as this wonderful place to live in. And eventually, when I moved my son in here, he loved it. In fact, he loves staying there. And the other thing I think parents often do when they put their children in group home is they keep talking of that as the group home and where they were living as the home. And I think we have to make that switch. So for Neeraj, Ananda is the home. And Panchil, where I stay, is Mary's home. He comes to visit Mary at her home. And then he goes back to his own home, which is Ananda, where he loves to be, where he loves to be. There he is in his white kurta at the back dancing at some event. So where he loves to be, because that is his home. And I think that's the challenge that parents have, to be able to make that shift, that this is the home of the young person, but he has to have another home one day. Just like many of our typical kids do. They grow up, they go off to study somewhere and they live somewhere else. And our kids with autism can also begin to do that. And with that, I learned. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary ma'am, for your presentation of Ananda. That was really wonderful. Equally as we had presentations of all other speakers as well. One very good thing which I loved is the concept of this is your home and this is Mary's home. That was very important and very eye-opening thing for all the parents, I would say. Thank you so much for your presentation, Mary ma'am. Yeah, we will stay tuned for the question answer round, but before that, we'll take our last speaker for the day. For this section, we have Mr. Gopinath Ramakrishnan sir. He's the co-founder and managing trustee of Special Child Assistance Network, SCAN. Over to you, Mr. Gopinath.
Thanks, Samuel and Arshali. Thanks for the opportunity. As everybody mentioned, it's been a fabulous summit. And really hats off to you guys for pulling together so many people, so many stalwarts, not just on this panel, but I think across the 4 days. So outstanding job. I can't really imagine how you guys did it, but really fabulous. I have a brief presentation as well, like everybody else. Saul, will you project it or should I try?
You can try it at your end, sir. If it is not possible, then any kind of technical errors, we'll do it from our end.
Okay.
Yes.
Visible now?
Visible with the field view.
Great. So thanks again for the opportunity. I actually asked to go last today because I think that compared to all the others who spoke, SCAN is at a very, very early stage in this whole assisted living venture. We are actually at the very initial stage. We have a lot to learn from everybody else who's been through the mill, who has a lot of experience over the last probably couple of decades in this whole area. So it's a wonderful opportunity to listen to everyone and to get an idea of how they've gone about things, the challenges they faced. Just to start off a little bit about SCAN, we are a support group for families with special needs citizens. We're based in Chennai, but in today's virtual world, we have members from everywhere. We're active since 2015, and we're mostly, virtually interact on Facebook and Apple Telegram. In the days before COVID, if anybody remembers, when we used to actually meet each other face to face, we used to have a lot of in-person meetings, fun events, seminars, and workshops, and a lot of programs for the parents as well as the children. I'll show some pictures later on. We also participate in advocacy and disability rights issues because we think that's part of our responsibility as a parent group, that we should be talking about what's important for the entire sector. And some of the initiatives we're focusing on are there, inclusive being this one of them, employment and awareness. But broadly, we always say bottom line is, despite all the challenges we face, we should, have fun and celebrate life. That's very important that we encourage all our families to really look at things positively. So what does inclusion mean for us? And we've talked about inclusion, some of the other panelists have spoken about it. For us, it very simply means that you should be able to live, work, and play amongst others, just like everyone else. Because when we talk about special needs people or people with disability, there is somehow a sense that you have to do something separate for them, or that they belong somewhere a little differently from the rest of the community, rest of the society. But really, I think that inclusion for us would mean being able to do everything amongst everybody else. And that's true inclusion. So what are we looking at when we talk about inclusive living? Accessibility, of course, is very important based on the individual disability requirements. It does have to answer the question, as everybody has raised, about who after us or what after us, because it is a concern for parents with older children, because the parents are aging. And it's not only about who after us, but even when the parents are still alive, but they perhaps physically incapable of taking care of their children or just emotionally drained, you need to have an alternative look forward. So what we actually want and what is our aspiration when it comes to inclusive living is, and I think this has been covered by many people again, provide the home environment as much as possible. Everybody has talked about that institutionalization is not really desirable. The concern is also that it perhaps leads to ghettoization, that will tend to be secluded. And there is definitely an urge for everyone to be integrated with the rest of society. I think that's very, very important. And we should see how we can make that as possible. When we talk about the home environment, is also part of society. I think Mary just mentioned a few minutes back about being part of the community, whether rural or urban doesn't matter. But if you're part of the community, then you've got an extended family around you. And that's something which we resonates with we talked about. I'm sure this is a very familiar pictorial to many people, but just to illustrate, because a lot of people ask, what do you mean by inclusion? As long as we have multiple kinds of people in the community, isn't that okay? Or as you're part of the community, isn't it okay? So this very clearly illustrates like exclusion is where you're totally away from the mainstream. Segregation is when you are in a group, perhaps different disabilities, different segments of people, but you're again away from the mainstream. A little bit better step is what we call integration, where you are part of the mainstream but still separate. But what we're looking for is what's at the bottom. True inclusion is where you're so interspersed with the mainstream that it really doesn't seem like you're anybody different. And that's what we are really aspiring to achieve. Maybe a little bit of a pipe dream right now, but that's the kind of vision that we have, that anybody with a disability should not be seen as radically different. So it should be just another attribute, just as much as height or weight or the way you look, the color of your hair or whatever it may be. It should be just another attribute and not something which makes you radically different from others. So when we are talking about inclusive living, what we are looking for is to create an inclusive community which integrates people with special needs or people with disabilities along with others, and including their families, have access to work, therapy, recreation, anything that you want to do in life for everybody in the community. And particularly when it comes to the families, we are very clear that we want this to be a place that you can move to right away. It should not be something that you look at post-retirement. I know that there are people like Sridharan who have done a wonderful job of taking the core retirement community and making it inclusive. So it's not that that's not a good idea or something to do. But when we at SCAN started doing something from scratch, we said that let's have something which is really attractive to people who are even in their working life, not only after retirement. We wanted to bring up an option for independent or codependent living for the special needs person, during as well as after the lifetime of the parents. Again, resonates with what Mary was talking about in terms of choice for the person, respite from the family for the individual with a disability, having them make their own choices, them getting a sense of responsibility. I think all these are desirable goals, and they will be taken further when we are able to give them the kind of independence that they would perhaps not ask for, but they would definitely appreciate once it is available to them. At the same time, we want to make sure the quality of life doesn't go down. And this has been a challenge, I think, with institutionalization around the world, that, when you look at shifting a person after the lifetime of the parents to a different environment where they have to abide by a different set of rules and especially be in sync with a large number of others other than with a smaller family unit, then the quality of life goes down. And this is something we are very much aware of. And we want to make sure that whatever we do, the quality of life should be actually on par or even better than what they have today. They should enjoy their life. It's not just a matter of being given food and shelter, but it should be a question of how much they enjoy every day of their life. And of course, we need to bring in legal safeguards. We need to make sure that all the right regulatory aspects are taken care of, and so on. So what are we planning? And as I said, we are still in a planning stage, or about to get into action. So what are we planning? We want to be part of a large residential community. Again, this is something I keep relating to a lot of things that Mary spoke about. Perhaps it was because it was just the previous presentation before mine, but I'm sure others also talked about this. We want to be part of a large community. Right now, at least in Chennai, and I'm sure in other cities as well, there are a whole number of these kind of communities, large communities with 500,000, 2,000 homes being developed, which have a large number of facilities. They have sports facilities, they have social facilities, etc. So the idea was that rather than trying to reinvent the wheel, rather than trying to say we buy land and start building and so on, let's be part of that community. So one, a lot of facilities become available to us, and two, we are amidst a lot of other people, so we are in a sense part of society. Of course, we will want certain special facilities for us, for example, a therapy center or a medical center, a vocational training center, and what we're planning is also a common kitchen and dining for the persons with disability. Accessible apartments, we need to have a range of apartments because families may have different compulsions, different family sizes, different budgets. And the whole crux of what we're planning will function around group homes, what we call small group homes. That's the terminology that we've been using, which essentially is to say that there would be an apartment which would have 3 to 4 people. With appropriate caregivers. And we plan to have service providers to manage the maintenance, generate services, etc. So from a timeline perspective, this is also, I think, it's been a year in the making. We spent most of the last year, again, thanks to the lockdown, perhaps we started off around March last year. Gave some of us a lot of time to think about this. We started evolving this concept and putting it together, examining the pros and cons and so on. One of the big things that we managed to do was to try with an organization called Vidyasanga, which is a special needs school in Chennai, and it's more than a school. They do a lot of community work, they do a lot of training, and we've tied up with them for managing the group homes, which means that they will be looking at the caregivers, group home managers, and so on. We started evaluating builders and locations, and despite a lot of restrictions on travel, we managed to visit about 15, 20 different locations. And then we started shortlisting the builders and started getting some kind of negotiations with them. And we are at the stage where, if you see the part in the middle, it's saying we're about to finalize the project we're going to get into. And hopefully we do that in the next few weeks. We're also looking at financing for group homes. I know Shanti spoke a lot about how important this is to look at your finances, not depend on charity. At the same time, parents may or may not be able to afford everything. But we're looking at possibility of some kind of financing which will help us create the corpus for the group homes. There are a lot of more social investors these days who are looking at financing good causes, with perhaps a little lower rates and so on. And the plan is that families will start booking apartments in the place, and we start getting group homes booked in the middle of the year, June, July. And towards the end of the year, we start getting into monitoring the construction because these are upcoming projects and could be ready by the next year. In the meantime, caregiver training, local manager training, needs assessment for those who are going to be staying there will be done by the assessment. But we know what are the care needs of each of the people who want to be there. We already have a core team of about 60 families who are very interested in this initiative. And they're very keen to get this moving as fast as possible, and at least probably more than a dozen who will be in the group homes from day one. So we have to see what kind of care they will require. And as we move along, of course, hopefully next year is when 2022-23 is when we actually get to action and start operations. So that's our basic plan. What are we looking at in terms of prices? We're looking at apartments in the region of 30 to 60 lakhs for an apartment, because that seems to be a sweet spot for most families. It has to be a location convenient because we want families to be able to commute to the city and have public transport access. Maybe I should have come to this slide earlier, but when we talk about inclusive living, who stays there? We want this to be the entire family, right? So the families would be staying there in an apartment. And of course, they would have the person with disability or the special needs citizen who would stay either with the family or in the group home. And naturally, when this is a large community, there would be so-called regular families. They're also encouraging the builders to look at senior citizens because some of them may need similar facilities, like, for example, therapy centers or medical facility, etc. And as Colonel mentioned, they will have a lot of time, a lot of talent, a lot of skills which they can put to use with our youngsters. Whether teaching them skills or just spending time with them, going for a walk, playing a sport, whatever it may be. So we are encouraging the builders to to try and market this to senior citizens as well. So how does it work? The parents will purchase or rent an apartment in the community. Again, because this will be a large community, they don't have to purchase because there will always be apartments available for rent. So depending on their convenience, their financial situation, etc., they could choose to either invest in it or to take up this for rent. There's an option to rent a space in the group home for the special needs citizens. Right? And as was discussed earlier, while it is good for the youngsters to start being independent at a slightly earlier age and not wait till the parents are no longer there, but start in early. Of course, it becomes each person's decision, right? Each family makes the decision as to whether they want to enroll their child in the group home right away, when they're 15 or 18 or 20, or they want to wait till they're much older. We've been encouraging them to, once the child is past any kind of formal schooling age, perhaps from the age of 18 or 19, but try and give them the independence that they would look forward to being in the group. We have a kitchen canteen to cater to all the group home residents and in fact to everybody, again, because we want to be inclusive. So there are 1,500 apartments in the community. Everybody can choose to order from or visit the canteen, but we'll be running it so that we can cater to any specific requirements in terms of, gluten-free or casein-free, whatever kind of requirements that some of our youngsters may have. But it's open to everyone. Similarly, other facilities like the therapy and vocational and everything would be available to all, and based on the payment would be based on usage. We will have a management committee to oversee the operations. We know that while a few of us are currently putting this together, we have to look for the next 50 or 100 years. It's obviously more stringent governance is required. We need to have more people involved, and you can't expect the same people to be there forever. So how do the group homes work? Fairly simple. I think it's been talked about in earlier presentations as well. We'll have a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment with 1 to 2 people per room. From a financial perspective, parents can book it either on a regular monthly basis or on a lifetime use basis. we are trying to work out different models. The idea is that they'll be fully furnished apartments. We have the basic services available for them. We have caregivers, again, based on the need of each resident. We'll have a group home manager. This is perhaps something that is, we will have to place a lot of emphasis on, because we plan to have about anywhere between 15 and 20 apartments. So we would need to have people who will be always available to sort any challenges or any issues that arise, either with the caregivers or in the way that the group homes are run. And of course, the management committee is having oversight. So what happens to the person after the demise of the parents? They can either stay in the apartment with the caregiver, they can move to the group home. Of course, we will facilitate a trust to be set up. And I think that, Kovai Care has done a lot of work in this regard, and I'm sure so have others, in terms of figuring out what kind of a trust is required for the individual special needs, to make sure that there's no challenge in terms of their continued stay in this facility. So we must have each family make out the individual trust with the appropriate kind of trustees and so on. And of course, there is a committee which will take care of this. How do we manage it? We'll have service providers for the kitchen and dining, for maintenance and housekeeping. The idea is that we should let expertise rule and bring in the right experts for everything. Similarly, when it comes to a special school or a therapy center, we will have the appropriate kind of experts. In fact, at SCAN, we've had in the past, for many, till again, COVID hit us, we had a parent-run vocational unit, which was doing very well. We'll try and replicate that model as well, because a lot of parents who are experienced and who want to actually be involved in this, we will, have all those who be able to provide this. And more than just being involved in a vocational unit, we will also tap all the possible employment opportunities within the community. Imagine, when you're talking about 1,500 apartments in a large place with a clubhouse and so many other services, there are an amazing range of jobs available for our people within the community. In fact, there's even talk that there's a grocery store in the community. We can run the grocery store, because we have people who are training our children in retail and retail operations. We take over and run the grocery store. There will be people required to run the clubhouse, whether it's in terms of just marking attendance for the staff who are coming there, or checking whether the members who come are showing their ID card, just making sure that the gym or whichever other facility is being maintained well. There are so many jobs that we can look at our children, our youngsters taking up, which will also make the whole place more inclusive, which will bring in more of an integration between our families and the other residents there. So we will do a lot of things which will make sure that we are well integrated with the community. At the same time, that it's not just that our youngsters are kept occupied, but that they actually end up doing things that they want. That's going to be a huge goal. This whole thing of employment is going to be a big part of what we aim for beyond the group homes and the living part of it. Of course, like I said, we partnered with Vidyasagar to provide caregivers and manage group homes. So that's going to be a huge source of relief for us because of their experience and background. In terms of the management committee, the whole idea is that we should have parents and we should have experts as well. So it's not just about parents. Usually have a lot of concern. They have a lot of empathy and so on. But we said that's not enough. We need to also have perhaps a psychiatrist or a psychologist. We need to have a special educator. We need to have just a medical doctor. We need to have different kinds of experts on board so that they can make sure that each child's well-being is being well taken care of.
Sorry to interrupt, sir. Yeah.
So this is basically a pictorial of the vision. This is how we like to see, special needs people, regular families, senior citizens. But the whole thing is, the idea is professionally managed, governed by residents, and with a whole range of services. That's really the vision that we have, and this is what we're working towards, and hopefully in a year's time it becomes a reality. So that's all I had from my side. So Saumil, you interrupted the absolute right time. This is just a few pictures of of our group, and I would just like to say that thanks again for the opportunity. It's been wonderful to be part of this whole event, especially this panel discussion. Would love to address any questions people have either now, or you can write to us at contact@scanfamily.com, and would love to share more information. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gopinath, for your comprehensive planning about developing a community and developing a community for all the families to come together. We have few questions in the chat box for all of you. I would want all of us to be there live, attending to the queries. One very important question has been put in the chat box, which says, at what age the child should live separately or independently? Neena ma'am has already replied to it. Ideally, 16 plus should be the age to start. Anybody else has any different answer for this question?
Does the question mean that having a separate room?
Live separately or independently, away from the parents, basically.
Away from the home.
Away from the home, yes.
Yeah, can I answer that? If Mary, go ahead.
Sorry, I just feel typically
sure.
As an adult, because that's what happens with. See, we have to see people with disabilities the same way we see people without disabilities, and they usually leave home as adults. So that's the way I think we have. Sorry, Aparna, carry on.
I was going to say exactly the same thing. Yeah.
Okay. Any other answers to this, or we can move on?
I just want to add to this.
Yes.
Can I just add to this? So, I mean, and see, not to minimize the worry that makes parents ask that question. Often they're facing behavioral issues, or they're very worried that they are overprotecting their child and not allowing their child to become independent. And they get the message that, you send your child away to a residential home, he or she will become more independent. But the idea is, so I understand. I'm not even trying to say that they're trying to dump their kid or anything like that. But the thing is that the professionals who are working with their children, they are the ones who need to empower parents more. So the parents don't feel such low confidence about being able to handle their own child. But definitely, when a child is young, he or she needs his or her parents, if that is possible. Right?
Can I
I have a slightly.
on that?
Can I add something here?
I would like to just elaborate further, talking about, independent. When all of us here, I would like to speak on behalf of all of the panelists. The idea is not to, peddle one kind of a assisted living model here. That is beside the thing. Talking about independent living is even taking, like Mary said about choice making. That should start from home, right? From the child becomes aware of his own self, his or her, what is he, what is she, whether she has a choice to, okay, this is the time I want to sit back and enjoy music, or I want to eat this or that. It starts from that, So it's a process. It's a continuing process per se. It's not that you cut off from this place and then, because it's an ongoing process. Like we are making the child learn some skills. It's a thought. It's basically a thought that you are living independently. There are certain responsibilities as well as choices, like Mary also said. So when I say 16 is the time when the mothering should start taking a little bit of back stage, and the child should start expressing. And Baki though, if somebody is living, a single mother is in a small town, she has to go for work. Uske liye to 13 mein bhi jana padega, wo ek alag perspective. But in principle, talking about independence is right from whenever the child is ready. Ideally, in residentials, 18 plus, like Aparna and Mary says. But if a preparation has to be done, the minute the child hits adolescence and teenage, we as mothers forget that, because the label is so over shadowing everything else, that we forget that that person beneath that label is also a growing young adult, or wanting to express his or her needs. And teenage is the right time to, start taking little back steps. So that should be this is what I meant.
Yes.
100% agree with that. If you just add here.
About it.
Just a small request to all the speakers. We'll try to keep the answer brief so that we'll be able to.
Yeah.
Yes, Shanti madam.
May I see? You see, I feel that it is a question that family and the individual has to decide which age, what are the circumstances, what are the arrangements, and like you see, I give my example. My son is 45. He has Down syndrome. He doesn't want to go live anywhere else. He wants to live in his own home. That is his choice. And so I think, you see, the age is something we have to prepare. So what I do is, I always tell him that mummy and papa हमेशा नहीं रहेंगे. तो आपको तो कहीं तो अकेले चला सकते हो क्या इस घर में तुम? तो उस तरीके से सलाह करनी पड़ती है. So it is, age is not necessarily a very complete criteria.
We say age is a number.
Yes,
Sorry?
age is a number.
We say age is a number.
Yes.
Yes.
I know.
Mr. Gopinath wanted to add up something to this.
I was going to say exactly what Nina said, agreeing with what Mary and others have said. But see, the thing is that the parents are usually so resistant to giving choice. In fact, very recently, somebody had sent a message saying that we were both, the parents were down with COVID. And I was so surprised as how much the child was, rose to the occasion and was more responsible. Unfortunate that it took such a situation for you to realize this, but I'm very happy that it happened, that she got a chance to actually prove that she is more responsible, because there was more work for her to do, or she had to take care of herself, etc. We should give a chance, irrespective of kind of a negative situation in the person's life. If you start with day one, which is what happens to all of us. I think all of us had choices, exercised our choices, push the boundaries of parents' rules right from the time probably we were 6th or 7th standard. We started trying to be a little bit more independent. But somehow, especially each child is kept so totally bound to the parents, they have no choice. That's
Yes, true. There's one question in the question answer box which Nina madam has said I would like to answer live. Could you provide a directory for operational assisted living facilities rather than?
Yes, I am just sending it to you.
Okay.
Just a minute. I will just send it to, because I don't know how to transfer from here. So I'm sending it to Harshali. Harshali can post it in the comment box.
Sure.
Although the list is available on that forum which I shared.
It is a link, or it is a file?
This is compiled around 76 organizations which we recently worked. We posted a list from collecting from everybody. Last time it was around 40, 45. This time it is around 70. So I'm sure everybody can contribute by sharing these informations to us, because we keep compiling and sharing it with everybody.
May I just add one thing here?
Sure, Colonel.
We also have a similar problem as far as the senior care is concerned. There are so many, models, so many variety of things, products, this and that, and nobody knows what the right hand is doing and what the left hand is doing. Yes. I think a time has come even for this, special needs, this thing. If you can have a wonderful compilation of all data like Nina has done for 70, and that is made available on a platform with the various linkages to, including the cost, etc., that you have to, look at. I think that would do a lot of good to all of us. And we are trying to do it for the senior living and senior care, because it's a mind-boggling thing, and so many things are happening, and we don't even know where it is happening, how it is happening, and what cost it is happening. I'm just putting this idea to you. If all of us can chip in, I think we can get this done.
Absolutely. Next question, Mary ma'am has said that she would like to answer. A parent wants to get done or registered for the vocation program. Mary ma'am, your answer?
What was the question? Sorry?
I'll say, I want him to do the vocation program. Might be at Ananda. The parent would like to get enrolled for the vocation program at your center.
So the question is?
They would like to know the process. Basically, they might be like
process. Okay. So they have to write to get in touch with the my colleague Shalini, and she will give all the details.
Okay.
And she has to be connected on helpline.afa, meaning Action for Autism, helpline.afa@gmail.com.
Okay, helpline.afa@gmail.com.
Gmail.
Okay. There was a very common question for all of you that there might be few parents or few people who are not that well to do with respect to the finances. So are there any schemes or policies which are there for these kind of parents, for their children, with respect to the residential setup idea?
I think Shanti could answer some of it from the National Trust perspective, because Shanti ji, I think you'd be able to take some of that. And also, I think many of the group homes take in people from disadvantaged backgrounds and have sponsorships for them. I know we do, and Aparna does, and a few others also, I'm sure they do.
Sure.
So this is regarding the families which cannot afford, you see this. The thing is that, see, there are government-run homes, but very badly run. So one cannot recommend that. And actually, those are abandoned children who are picked up by the police and they are put in the government-run homes. The second part is, you see, the latest Gharanda scheme of National Trust says that they will put 10,000 rupees per month for a person in residential facility, provided the organization runs 50 and 50. That means 50 paying candidates and 50 non-paying candidates. So that is the scheme. It has not been picked up by many users because of various reasons, because you see, the government schemes keep changing, and when they change, what happens? We have already taken the children with us, and the scheme has changed, and you do not know now rest of the life how we are going to, you see, finance 50% of the people. So at present, unfortunate thing is that there's hardly anything available for people who cannot pay for the services. But what is happening in the existing organizations is that we all are open to some extent taking people and supporting them through community and other parents, but the number cannot be very large.
Correct. True. There's one more interesting question. What are your thoughts about starting a family or a marriage for autism adults? Do you have any positive stories with regards to this? The question is to all the panelists with respect to your experience.
Very interesting.
Stories. I mean, see, the thing is that two things. One is, of course, there are many positive stories. Two is, the other thing is that we have to keep in mind, marriage is not always a positive ending. I mean, I feel like asking all the participants here, how many of them are very happily married? So, you know, we sell this
in public we say yes.
But this is a laddu, na, Mary, which everybody wants.
No, but this is the thing, you know, like we keep selling marriage to our kids. And the reality is that many of them will not get married. And so it's a good idea to also help them see that not everybody gets married. And it's okay to not be married. But those who choose to get married, many of them are very happily married. There are lots of very positive stories.
Okay.
So I would like to say here one thing, that regarding marriage, what happens is we as parents get carried away by, you see, by this thing. What happened was, my son was he was very interested in marriage. I started telling him marriage involves what kind of responsibilities. So if you are ready to take that responsibility, including running your own home, doing everything in the home, and all that, when he got to know, his enthusiasm was dampened. And which is a fact. which is a fact. You cannot, as parents are aging, we cannot start taking care of or providing a kind of a good life to two people in family.
Lockdown is the best educator on this home cleaning, washing.
Actually, whenever we talk about marriage and relationship for special needs, we don't address the elephant in the room. Many of these autistic adults are very much aware of their own physical needs, and because they read and all, they want to experience sex. Now nobody knows how to address that. So and as it is, even in an average family, you still cannot talk freely about having a relationship without marriage, or having a girlfriend or a boyfriend. In such scenario, these kind of, because we are fighting for the survival, the basics. So it's like a luxury, or we think it as a taboo, and we think in any feeling, because we don't know really. I'm hoping that in the next coming generations will be able to create a more healthy environment and empower them enough to have such more happy stories. I'm sure there must be so many hidden disabilities which have not been diagnosed, but people have been married, because हमारे यहाँ तो देश में मेरी आधी चीजों का इलाज तो ये कि शादी कर दो ठीक हो जाएगा. So we have two extremes.
I know.
So इसके लिए एक सोमेल अलग ही डिस्कशन रखना पड़ेगा, और इस तरह के सक्सेस स्टोरीज को ढूंढ के लाना पड़ेगा.
Bilkul. We'll do it.
But can I just add one thing to this? Yeah. So everything has a developmental progression, right? You can't suddenly get married without feeling love, right? It's not just there is one sensory satisfaction that you get from the fulfilling your sexual needs, but in order to be able to fulfill them yourself, I mean, masturbation is completely acceptable, right? To move from masturbation to having intercourse is a developmental process. You can't believe that just because you're masturbating, you want to have sex, right? Your need is being fulfilled through masturbation sometimes, right? And in the same way, to be married without feeling love for somebody, or without feeling that kind of attachment and that family feeling, is asking for trouble, right? So first encourage lots of meeting, lots of interaction. Only then we start thinking about marriage,
True.
Although having said that, there is one group started by parents, Bangalore-based parents, called Inclusive Matrimony. They can search on the Facebook. I don't know how much they're doing. They're not very open, probably because of the taboo factor, and probably they're also working out to find some happy stories. But parents who are interested to know, they should search for Inclusive Matrimony and approach.
So the Inclusive Matrimony wants only serious parents who are actually looking for it to be there, and not just people coming in just to get an idea of what's going on. Again, that's an initiative of the parents, and I think somehow there is also a lot of interest amongst parents that I want my child to be married because it's a sign of being more normal and being fitting into society.
शादी होकर ठीक हो जाएगा.
हाँ.
ठीक हो जाएगा, नहीं तो कोई और हमारे बिना कोई और संभालेगा उसको.
But at the same time, I find a lot of caregivers want companionship. They want friendship. It may be expressed in the form of marriage because that's what they see around them. My brother got married, my cousin got married, so I also have to get married. I'm 25, I should get married. But actually what they're seeking is friendship and companionship, which I think we have to find a solution for. Because it's so easy to say that make friends, but then we know what difficulty they have in making friends. So how do we solve that? So there is the physical part, and then I think there is this whole emotional part.
True. I guess
hopefully in a good marriage, both come together.
Our discussion is going completely the other way around. So I'll come back to assisted living setups. I'll take this as a last query for the day. Are there any government policies for land or financial aid for setting up a kind of an assisted living setup or facility? So any kind of an aid which is going to help out somebody who is intending towards it?
Shanti, you can talk about Gharonda. The only one that I know of.
Nay, in Kharonda, they expect you to have your own place, buy your own land, and
उनको आशीर्वाद मिलेगा बस.
गवर्नमेंट का सपोर्ट तो अभी नेग्लिजिबल है इस एरिया में. बहुत वो करने की जरूरत है. हमने दिल्ली में इतना करने की कोशिश की. देयर आर सो मेनी कम्युनिटी सेंटर्स ऑल अराउंड दिल्ली, एंड even if 5 or 10 they could give, but मुस्कान के साथ क्या हुआ, उन्होंने वो भी ले लिया जो अच्छे खासे, जिसमें हमने 50-60 लाख रुपए लगाए थे, वो भी हमसे वापस ले लिया, क्योंकि लीज एक्सटेंड नहीं की. इन लोगों की पॉलिसी अभी बिल्कुल भी गवर्नमेंट की वो नहीं है.
We don't form vote bank, so इसलिए we are not into the.
नहीं, और उसके अलावा सब लोग इतने ज्यादा उलझे हुए हैं अपने कामों में. हमारे पास टाइम और एनर्जी कि हम इनके पीछे पड़ के कि भाई आप ये चीजें लाओ, उसके लिए एक ग्रुप आने की जरूरत है.
डॉक्टर सोमेल, उसके लिए मैं आपको सिर्फ इतना ही बता सकती हूँ, इट्स प्रीमेच्योर राइट नाउ, बट विजन यही है जो शांति जी बोल रहे हैं कि all the panelists who are here, we have already formed a group. In future, we'll be forming a formal body. I'm calling it consortium of assisted living. अभी तो पहले अपना देख लें, अपने घर बसा लें, फिर इकट्ठे बैठ के पॉलिसीज के ऊपर and becoming a pressure body. थोड़ा टाइम है, क्योंकि अगेन जैसे बोला कि अभी ये सेक्टर ही फॉर्म हो रहा है अभी. तो हो सकता है हमारी जनरेशन इसी में फौत हो जाए, लेकिन बैटन पास करके जाएंगे आगे.
Absolutely. See, legally, if I can add to this, according to the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act in India, the government is supposed to provide accessible, inclusive living for people with disabilities. Now, because we had a chat with the Tamil Nadu government folks, they said, yes, we recognize it. Of course, as Nina said, it's not they don't talk about the vote bank part, but they say, listen, we have to look after everybody, and people with disabilities are only 4% of the population or whatever number it is. You will get your turn, but they're starting to recognize the law exists, and it's up to us to actually make sure, just as much as we've had, for example, recently we had elections in Tamil Nadu, and compared to last time, there was a lot more accessible voting booths, with ramps and everything, and free Uber for those who can't make it to the polling booth and so on. It comes not because the government just woke up and said, let's do it, but there were a lot of people who pushed for it. So that kind of advocacy is required. So we have to make it happen. The law will provide the support at the backdrop, but we have to actually push various governments to make it happen.
Sure. I would just like to thank all the panelists who are there with us today for the prototype of assisted living setups. Thank you all for your time, experience, your entire setup, and all the help you have been for all our parents. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, baby. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you
Bye-bye.
so
Take care.
much.
Thank you so much.